Hey, what's up, folks? So it looks like there's going to be an alarm on October 4th, which is tomorrow, from FEMA testing their emergency capabilities. They say it'll be on every cell phone, every television, and virtually every electronic device in the country. What the heck is going on? And why does it say it's going to be for 30 minutes? Does it mean 30 total minutes of alarms or a 30-minute period? They don't make it clear. And considering the emergency broadcast system had a scare in Hawaii recently, where they told people they were about to be hit by a nuke a couple years ago, imagine how scary that was. Everybody has the right to be skeptical about what the heck is going on, and I'm going to try to talk about it as honestly and accurately as I possibly can. Kevin McCarthy might be out at Speaker of the House. We're going to listen to Thomas Massie, Chip Roy, Matt Gaetz, and some other perspectives.
I don't think voting against Kevin McCarthy is chaos. I think $33 trillion in debt is chaos. I think that facing a $2.2 trillion annual deficit is chaos. I think that not passing single subject spending bills is chaos. I think the fact that we have been governed in this country since the mid-90s by continuing resolution and omnibus is chaos.
I would also argue that, some of our brothers and sisters, particularly in the, MAGA camp, I think, particularly enjoy the circular firing squad. You want to come at me and call me a rhino, you can kiss my ass.
And I also want to talk about Donald Trump trying to cancel debates. Imagine if Hillary Clinton tried to cancel a debate when she was up in points, or another Republican tried to cancel debates when they were up in polls. Have people lost their minds thinking that this is a good idea to cancel the Republican debates? God bless you guys. Dream Rare Podcast starts now.
It's the Dream Rare Podcast. Welcome to the show. The way to get the news at the desk or on the road. Let's go. God is great and success in our control. The world is crazy, but we get better from obstacles.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to today's episode of the Dream Rare Podcast. Breaking news: Kevin McCarthy has been voted out of Speaker in the House. So to that, I have to say, Kevin, I've been very stressed recently. I'm taking on a lot of projects. I have too much that I could handle. I've been looking for an assistant recently. So Kevin McCarthy, reach out. I'm looking for somebody loyal that can follow directions, a hard worker with a positive attitude. So Kevin McCarthy, if you need a job, the Dream Rare Podcast, it has its eyes peeled. Good luck. Anyway, we're going to talk about that in the second story, and I'm going to do a few different takes from people like Chip Roy, Thomas Massie, and Matt Gaetz. But first, I want to talk about this weird alarm system, and I want to show it real quick on the screen. FEMA has officially announced on their website. I think they've announced it for a while, but now it's getting a lot of play because it's a day before it. So this is right on the FEMA.gov website, guys. It says beginning at approximately 2:20 p.m. Eastern time, which would be 11:20 Pacific time. Cell towers will broadcast the test for approximately 30 minutes. During this time, WEA-compatible wireless phones that are switched on within range of an active cell tower and in a geographic area where the wireless provider participates in WEA should be capable of receiving the test message. For consumers, the message that appears on their phones will read, "This is a test of the National Wireless Emergency Alert System. No action is needed," right? So it says it's going to broadcast for 30 minutes. And here's where people are getting confused. And I'm confused because FEMA is not doing a good job of communicating this. Does that mean that there's going to be a 30-minute straight alarm? That sounds kind of crazy, regardless of what it is. Like 30 minutes, my phone's going to be doing crap. That's weird. If it's not 30 minutes and it's just in a window, why didn't you say that? So, people are confused, and I believe that is on FEMA for doing a horrible job of communicating if it's actually 30 minutes straight, which it sounds like, or it's not. With that being said, a lot of people are skeptical for a lot of reasons. A lot of theories are being thrown out there, and I want to talk to one that's real. In Hawaii, just a couple of years ago, I think it was 2018, they sent out a fake nuclear alarm system, and I believe it said this is not a drill. Like this one's going to say this is a drill, and people in the vicinity of Hawaii were told to seek shelter, that they were about to be hit by a nuke. I mean, so this is just at best incompetence, malevolence at worst, but at best, they scared the crap out of people in Hawaii thinking that they were going to get hit from a nuclear weapon, and it turned out to be a mistake that somebody made. I mean, that's crazy. We live in the United States of America, and that's a pretty big mistake. So with that just happening within the last 5 years, everybody's very skeptical, as they should be. Me personally, I have my ideas. I'm going to talk about it in a second, but I want to talk about the main theory that a lot of people have been bringing up, because a guy, I've actually spoken to him on my Instagram live before. super nice guy. He was cool with me. We're different in some ways, and that's cool. Everybody has different things that they're into and that they say. But his name is Jason Shurka, I believe. And he put this out months ago and said, I've received a message. Take it as you want. I'm just the messenger. They're going to do something with graphene. And it's not just an alarm. It's going to, trigger graphene in people. And personally, God bless the guy. He's always been nice to me. I don't believe that at all. He has this email list under it, which is fine. I mean, do business. I'm sure he's gotten more email lists than he's ever gotten just off of this kind of fearmonger. Is that true? I mean, I can't prove that it's not, so I'm not going to sit and debate it for hours, but I don't believe it. To me, there's an attention economy now, and everybody, to some extent, that makes content is seeking some sort of attention, whether it's for business or pleasure or, to make a empty space in them feel full or whatever. And I understand it. I'm not making fun of it. It is what it is. But to a certain extent, I think with everything, there's always going to be someone who says less. There's always going to be someone who says more. There's always going to be someone who shows proof. And there's always going to be someone who says, I'm a messenger. I have a secret message for you, but I'm not going to show proof, but you should just trust me and give me your email and trust me. But I'm not going to show you proof. I just know, and you could take it or not. And it's like, to me, I don't like stuff like that. That's not what I'm into. I don't do that. That's not my show. I think that's why I've built a certain level of respect, because I always try to show people what I'm seeing and how I'm feeling. And even if they disagree, usually I have logical proof. It's not just like beep, boop, bop. Somebody told me this. I can't really prove it at all, but you should just believe me. It's like, okay, I'm not into stuff like that. But at the same time, it definitely works to get attention, because if you say this is my theory, I guess, and I can't really prove it. One, we're in a war with Russia, even though we pretend like we're not, and China works with Russia, and we've really pissed off Russia, and Russia's probably pissed us off. And, that's the truth. The Ukraine war comes at a cost, and we've started a war with two countries, essentially a soft war, and in some cases a hard war, that they're not Afghanistan. It's not Iraq. It's not these smaller countries that are helpless. Like, Russia's no joke. So on one hand, maybe they're testing this because they're really escalating tension overseas, and they actually need an alarm system to make sure it works in case something happens. That's happening. Also, I think the alarm system in Hawaii was really sketchy, and it's a form of fear control. They scared the crap out of everybody. Either they messed up or not, but either way, it's like I see something on the horizon, whether it's organic or not, whether it's a false flag or a real flag. I can't really say, but I feel like something big is always coming. But in general, like America, the path that we're on is unsustainable. What we're doing in Ukraine, no matter how much global media and international media lies to people, it's not sustainable. It's not great what we're doing. The war shouldn't last for 15 years, and Zelensky shouldn't suck America dry. Like, all of this is unsustainable. We've pissed off some really powerful people. I don't believe we're winning the war. I mean, people can say that we are. Maybe we are. I can't really prove it. I'm not in Ukraine or Russia, but based on just watching the news, it's like, oh, we're not going to send tanks. We don't need to. Oh, we're sending tanks. We're not going to send these. Oh, we're going to send these. That shows weakness. That means whatever our original plan was to win is losing. So we have to do more and more and more because it's not working. So I don't know what exactly is happening, but that's my guess with the alarm system is it's either related to the war that we've gotten ourselves in, or the powers that be that cannot be trusted want some way to put something on everybody's screen. I mean, it's still massive power and control to have a message that goes on everybody's screen. Imagine how that power could be abused. Message, everyone's screen, every cell phone, every television, every computer, any digital device that's connected to Wi-Fi, you get a message for 30 minutes or whatever. Anybody can abuse that power. So you could just list 15 ways that could be abused, and that could be used against us, or that could be used to warn us. But I wouldn't say I'm pessimistic, but I like to think that, I don't trust the people currently running the show personally. So I just don't think that I think there's ways that could be abused. Let's just put it that way. So to me, that's the most likely theory. With that being said, I do believe in sound frequencies to some extent. For example, they do sound healing now. There's a lot of hippies and women and, just health conscious people that do sound baths. And I believe in that stuff. I mean, I'm not going to tell you have to do it or anything, but I've done it. And I do believe sound can be healing. I mean, it makes sense. Working out is healing. Eating well is healing. If you listen to like a cat scratching on a board or an alarm system for 30 minutes, it's not healthy for you. I'd much rather listen to something like joyous and calm and peaceful than like, for 30 minutes. So I do believe in the power of sound. And I think that there is some sort of, benefit to doing things like stretching for 30 minutes and listening to cool sounds on like bowls. I like that stuff. But I don't know that I don't believe the theory that it's going to unleash graphene inside you. I think that's just somebody that is seeking attention desperately and, willing to say and do whatever to get all eyes on him and make other theories seem inaccurate. And I'm not trying to shit on the guy. He's always been cool with me. I'm sure he's a nice guy. It's America. I don't have to agree with everybody. You don't have to agree with me. I don't believe that. I think October 4th is going to come and pass. I think the alarm system is going to happen. I do think it's weird. I do think it's odd that it's for 30 minutes. I don't trust it. I'm fine with people thinking there's ulterior motives, but I don't know. There's always going to be someone who has to go above and above and above and say something crazier and crazier and crazier that they can't prove and they have zero proof for. And then everybody's going to like cling to that narrative and everyone else's narrative is going to be basic. And really, that's why I think a lot of stuff can't get done in this country. But I'm not to blame. It's not just that to blame, but I don't personally believe that theory. If you want to, knock yourself out, but I think that's the excessive, exaggerated fear-mongering thing to make people overlook what it probably is. And once again, it's my opinion. I can't prove it. I don't want to listen or watch my phone go for an alarm for 30 minutes. I'm probably going to go to the beach or something and leave it somewhere. I don't feel like it's weird. I'm not afraid of it. I don't think there's going to be any like health consequences to it. That's my opinion. But if you are really scared of that for whatever reason, just put your phone somewhere and go for a walk for an hour and come back to it. I mean, there's a simple solution for that. I'm not that afraid of it, but I don't like the power of the government being able to send a message to everybody all at once. Unfortunately, after the lockdowns, I just don't trust them anymore. They've lost my trust and they need to gain it back. With that being said, this is a perfect segue. Speaking of loss of trust in the government, Kevin McCarthy has been ousted from the Speaker of the House. I do want to show a few counter narratives, but I want to look at Matt Gaetz' speech because although I'm not sure if I like Matt Gaetz, I think he's one of the better ones. I think he's got good policy, but sometimes I'm not sure if he's trying to put on a spectacle or he's really trying to do something important and meaningful. But I'm not going to lie, I feel like this speech is very, very compelling and it's worth a share. Let's watch Matt Gaetz explain why it's not dangerous to kick Kevin McCarthy out of the House because what government is doing is dangerous. And I pretty much completely agree with what he's saying here.
Mr. Speaker, my friend from Oklahoma says that my colleagues and I who don't support Kevin McCarthy would plunge the House and the country into chaos. Chaos is Speaker McCarthy. Chaos is somebody who we cannot trust with their word. The one thing that the White House, House Democrats, and many of us on the conservative side of the Republican caucus would argue is that the thing we have in common, Kevin McCarthy said something to all of us at one point or another that he didn't really mean and never intended to live up to. I don't think voting against Kevin McCarthy is chaos. I think $33 trillion in debt is chaos. I think that facing a $2.2 trillion annual deficit is chaos. I think that not passing single subject spending bills is chaos. I think the fact that we have been governed in this country since the mid-90s by continuing resolution and omnibus is chaos. And the way to liberate ourselves from that is a series of reforms to this body that I would hope would outlast Speaker McCarthy's time here, would outlast my time here, and would outlast either of our majorities. Reforms that I have heard some of the most conservative members of this body fight for, and some of the reforms that we've been battling for that I've even heard those in the Democrat caucus say would be worthy and helpful to the House, like open amendments, like understanding what the budget is. We have been out of compliance with budget laws for most of my life, most of many of your lives. And by the way, if we did those things, if we had single subject bills, if we had an understanding on the top line, if we had open amendments, if we had trust and honesty and understanding, there would be times when my conservative colleagues and I would lose, might be a few times when we'd win. There'd be times that we would form partnerships that might otherwise not be really predictable in the American body politic, but the American people would see us legislating. These last few days, we've suspended the momentum that we had established the week earlier, where we were bringing bills to the floor, voting on them, staying late at night, working hard. That's what the American people expect. It's something Speaker McCarthy hasn't delivered, and that's why I've moved to vacate the chair.
So, I mean, one of the most compelling things that he said was, how much debt and deficit and spending they're doing is legitimately insane. And I don't know that this is the right move. I'm going to provide the counter argument from people like Thomas Massie, who doesn't think it's the right move. And I trust Thomas Massie even more than I trust Matt Gaetz. But at the same time, it is unsustainable what the government's doing. Democrat, Republican, McCarthy, Trump, Biden, Pelosi, it doesn't matter. They spend money anyway. Like, this is the part that people don't get because they look at a savior or they think somebody's the enemy. And it's like, think what you want, but both parties have been doing this for decades, and it's absolutely insane. And they have no plan on stopping. They only have a plan to trick you into thinking they're stopping while they keep doing it, by providing you guys with characters that you're obsessed with or that you hate to make like a WWE Marvel movie while status quo continues as normal. So he's not really wrong about that. And he's certainly not wrong about the omnibus bills. The single spending bill is what he wants, is what he said. I agree. I mean, an omnibus bill is probably one of the top 5 biggest scams in recent history, besides maybe income tax, a lot of the foreign wars, the lockdowns, and the big pharma, Operation Warp Speed stuff. I would say it's up there because usually when you're passing something, it's like, what does it mean? What is it? Let's look at it. But with an omnibus bill, they jam in like 1,000 things. It's so many pages that nobody reads it. It's trillions of dollars. And by the time you get to it, they say you like hate women or something. They're like, you want to kill veterans. And you're like, what the hell? It's like, if you don't sign the bill immediately, they just make up some narrative that you're trying to like hurt the environment or like, destroy poor people's lives. Or it's like, there's always like, it's not just a bill that says one thing. It might say one thing at the top, but there's 1,000 different people being funded in a multi-trillion-dollar bill. I agree with Gaetz that it should be a single topic bill, one topic, one bill, and then pass them all individually and you could vote on them. The omnibus bills are a travesty. So, I don't know really what I think of this. To be honest, I didn't care if Kevin McCarthy stayed in. I don't care if he leaves. It might be worse when he leaves and people might be digging themselves in a deeper hole. It might not. But I'm gonna read Thomas Massie's, and I'm gonna tell you guys, I have to be honest. I'm getting to the point now where I do vote. I do want to get things done in government, but I almost think Republicans are so far gone. I'm starting to think that if they get destroyed quicker, it might actually be better than if they just keep kicking the can down the road. And I've never thought this way, and I'm not like super sold on it, but now I understand people who are like, who cares? Let's just let it get destroyed and hopefully we can rebuild, because I just don't see the path that everybody else sees. But let me read Thomas Massie's real quick. It's my favorite member of Congress. Thomas Massie said, from my perspective, the House has been functioning better, more transparently, and more conservatively with Speaker McCarthy than it did with Speaker Boner. Is that really his name? And Speaker Ryan. We have issues, but replacing Speaker McCarthy won't magically fix them. In fact, it could get worse. Some are asking how it could get worse. Here's one bad scenario. In the new speaker election, a candidate wins not by getting 218 Republican votes, but instead by getting some Democrat votes in exchange for letting their bad bills come out to the floor or otherwise sharing power. Someone said, would Donaldson not be a big upgrade? McCarthy just seems like we're continuing to settle for less. Thomas Massie said he'd be great, but he doesn't pass the purity test that Gaetz has set for speakers. Donalds co-wrote the CR with border security at 8% cut, with 21 conservatives voted against it on Friday. I voted for it. So, I guess he meant to say Byron Donalds, but he said Donaldson. I think that's what happened. Apparently, Byron Donalds voted to keep McCarthy there. And that's one thing that you kind of see there's inconsistency on. There's a lot of like MAGA Republicans that voted with McCarthy that felt it was a good idea to keep it. There's many people voting against it. I'm going to show this real quick because Trump, I think, backs McCarthy, and he said this recently. He said, why is it that Republicans are always fighting amongst themselves? Why aren't they fighting the radical left Democrats who are destroying the country? He likes McCarthy. He backs McCarthy. I think he wants people to lay off him, even though it's too late. But his base doesn't like McCarthy and doesn't want him there. And Matt Gaetz got enough votes. I think they got at least 6 to get him out of there. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. I'm going to be honest. I don't have a huge opinionated stance on this. Like maybe some would wish I do, because I don't really believe most of these people. Chip Roy's speech was great. I didn't want to get copyright stricken, but it's on my Twitter if anybody wants to look. I think he went off and said some interesting stuff. Matt Gaetz had a very compelling speech. I agree with a lot of it. Thomas Massie's always compelling, and I think he might be right. Like, maybe this is worse for Republicans, right? Maybe it's worse, and you get somebody in there worse, or Democrats get somebody in there somehow by finessing a deal, and now we get even less stuff. Possible. Maybe it gets better. Possible. I don't know. I don't know what happens, and I personally don't think that Republicans are being strategic, but I understand why. On one hand, you don't want to destroy something if you don't have something better to build, because this country could get way, way worse, you know? But at the same time, it's like, how long are we going to keep doing the same status quo and acting like it's normal just because everybody in Congress is happy? Like, it's not normal. It might get worse. It absolutely might get worse. And I don't want it to get worse. I truly don't. But I'm starting to think this way. Maybe it needs to get worse, because like just putting on smiley faces and putting characters like Obama and Trump that people like and they think it's going to change and it never does. Like, I don't think it's sustainable. So, you know, in some ways I agree with Thomas Massie, and I think he's the most honorable person in Congress. In other ways, you know, I wonder if Matt Gaetz is just doing stuff because he truly believes it, or it's kind of just a power play. I guess I really just don't care that much to, whether he stays or not. I don't think that much is going to change. And I think more work needs to be done for that. Let me know your comments. I'll read a few at the end. I want to talk about this because, hold on one second. Apparently, the Trump campaign is calling for debates to be canceled because he doesn't show up to them and he's up a lot in the polls. That's him asking why Republicans are always fighting amongst themselves, even though he's constantly fighting with more Republicans than anyone. So, of course, it's hypocritical and makes no sense, but that's just what he does now, I guess. Here's the one I want to show you, though. It's a letter that went out, statement from Trump campaign senior advisors Susie Wiles and Chris LaCivita. It says the Republican National Committee should immediately cancel the upcoming debate in Miami and end all future debates in order to refocus its manpower and money on preventing Democrats' efforts to steal the 2024 election. Anything less, along with other reasons not to cancel, are an admission to the grassroots that their concerns about voter integrity are not being taken seriously at national, and national Republicans are more concerned about helping Joe Biden than ensuring a safe and secure election. I have to say, this is one of the stupidest, most embarrassing, most delusional, most pathetic, most egregious, most ridiculous statements I've ever seen for multiple reasons. First of all, in no way, shape, or form does canceling one Republican debate in Miami show that that's like, oh, that's what's really holding the Republican Party back. It's the Miami debate. Like, we can't fight for fair elections because of the Miami debate. And if we have a debate in Miami, that's really going to take all our money and power away to do something. It's one day. It's one chance for people like Ron Paul, Donald Trump, Vivek, DeSantis, whoever, to get up there and make their case to the American people. This helped, even though Ron Paul lost the election, it started the libertarian movement in this country because Ron Paul got to be at the debates. Donald Trump went from like polling at 1 or 2% at the beginning of the Republican primaries to winning the Republican primaries because of the debate. The Republican establishment didn't want Trump to get the candidacy at that point, but he did because he was just so much better at debating and making his pitch to the American people. I don't think that they're perfect. I don't think that they're amazing and 100% fair, but it's one of the only good mechanisms left to allow somebody to hit a certain threshold, get on that stage, whether it's Ron Paul or Donald Trump, debate with the Jeb Bushes of the world and the Chris Christies of the world in order to shine. And Trump, literally, without a debate, Trump would have never been the president of the United States. So for now, he's the Hillary Clinton. He is showing off the polls that he used to not believe. He's showing off left-wing and right-wing polls that he hated on for years. He's the guy. So now he's trying to cancel the debates for others. It's pathetic. I mean, this is the point that I'm getting with, and this is why I don't care that much about McCarthy. I'm getting to the point, and honestly, feel free to disagree. If this bothers you so much, feel free to watch another channel. I don't care. I don't have the fakeness in me to just tell you what you want to hear to maintain a relationship. This is what I truly feel. At this point, if I were a betting man on this type of stuff, I would bet that Donald Trump is a controlled opposition, controlled demolition person, just taking the Republican Party, smashing it into the ground, leaving it completely fractured and shattered to the point where they can't win an election in the next 10 years and Democrats just wipe the country dry. That makes more sense to me based on how his campaign is acting and how he's acting and how he led in his last year and how he's been talking. That makes more sense than he's the savior who's going to fix the party. I don't think he can win a general election. I don't believe a single word he says. He constantly picks 50 fights with Republicans. Fine, I don't care. But then he acts like everybody else is doing it and we just need to come together. He used the debates to get in office. He used the debates to beat Hillary. He used the debates to beat Jeb Bush and Ted Cruz. And now he wants to cancel debates because he's leading in the polls. Like he's the new establishment Hillary Clinton that believes polls now because they're beneficial to him. He's the ultimate hypocrite. He's the ultimate deceiver. He's the ultimate socialist. He printed more money than Obama. He helped cause this bipartisan inflation. Matt Gaetz is right. They print too much money. He ran around selling the socialist globalist vaccine like he's Bill Gates Jr. He thinks he's a lifesaver and saved 100 million lives with it because a Democrat friend told him and he believes his Democrat friend. It's so obvious that Trump is just here to destroy everything that we've built and he doesn't give a crap about anything. He's the ultimate deceiver. So it's like, I don't really care. He likes McCarthy. Byron Donalds votes for McCarthy, but everybody's going to be mad at Thomas Massie for voting with them, but not Byron Donalds because it's like, it's a joke. Our movement is in shambles. We're completely divided because we're not coming together based on policy and actual beliefs. We're coming together based on idol worship of a guy who's probably further left than 95% of the Republican Party and printed more money than Obama. There's no consistency. Democrats vote for climate change. Democrats vote for women's rights, even though it's not women's rights. We're now an idol worshiping party where if Trump says that a heartbeat bill is saving babies' lives, then it's saving babies' lives. But if Trump says that we shouldn't pass a heartbeat bill to win an elections, then we're literally, according to these pro-life Republicans, they're sacrifice babies in order to vote for Trump. It's like a demonic religion that's evolved around it. I don't care if he's the best candidate. I think he's better than Biden, but it's like the dude's trying to cancel elections and nobody thinks that that's a little bit weird when he literally used an election as the only mechanism to get him in office the first time. He sucks now. He sucks. People aren't going to vote for him. He's going to lose to Biden by 8%. He's not easy to rally around. He's completely divisive, not only in our party, but in regular ones. He's not winning suburban women. He's not going to win over the Joe Rogan and the Elon Musk and the Bill Maher crowd. And then he's going to cry and run circles, and Carrie Lake's going to make a fortune off you while telling you that DeSantis mandated vaccines and we secretly won all 50 states because she retweeted it. It's like, and she voted for Hillary Clinton the first time anyway. It's a complete joke. So that's what I think about stuff. When it comes to Kevin McCarthy, I think that this is my true opinion too. I don't trust Kevin McCarthy. I think he's pretty establishment as they come. I don't think he's necessarily a world saver by any means. But at the same time, I think at this point that conservatives, Republicans, and MAGA, they like to just point the finger and try to throw all their blame at one person in the sense of I'm not saying Donald Trump is the number one problem. I'm saying it's all a problem. When Obama was there, when Trump was there, the system is an issue. And at a certain point, you have to be realistic about it and figure out how to fix it, not just wail your arms and run in circles and get persecuted and then say it's about me, patriot. That doesn't work. But in general, I think that MAGA has become very simplistic where there's it's all McCarthy's fault. We're going to blame him, even though Trump endorsed him. We're going to blame him, even though, and then we'll really get it done. And it's what do you think you can even do? Who are you going to put there? What are they going to do that's so different? I'm not mad that they kicked him out, though, with that being said, because honestly, I do think it needs to get worse before it gets better. I don't think Trump can fix it. I don't even think he wants to fix it. I think he's just wasting space and pretending like he's some secret savior. And he's going to do the same crap as McCarthy, the same crap as, that we had in 2020. And I think people are subscribing too much to this hero's tale where they're oh, we're going to kick McCarthy out of office. And it's it could get worse. They could hire somebody who's even more compromised by Democrats. And maybe McCarthy was the slightly better version of a Mitch McConnell. It's if Mitch McConnell wasn't there and Nancy Pelosi was there instead of Mitch McConnell, as much as people hate Mitch McConnell, justifiably so, he does get conservative judges in. It's Bush put in Clarence Thomas, the other Bush put in Alito, Trump put in 3 judges. Whether you like or dislike Trump got 3 judges that are more conservative than Democrats. And that's the truth. Is that enough? I mean, probably not, but that's just kind of how it works. So I think that people think that getting rid of McCarthy is just going to magically solve everything like Thomas Massie said. And it probably won't. And it probably will get worse. And I'm not even mad at it because I don't want it to get worse, but I think it has to get worse in order for it to get better. So I'm almost starting to think that way now because I personally see it right now is everybody's just blaming everybody for everything if they're not Trump. But then when it's Trump, like it's nothing. It's like, he voted for McCarthy. He's a rhino. Well, Byron Donalds just voted for McCarthy. So is Byron Donalds a rhino now, the Trump bootlicker? No. Is it? No. Do you like him or not? You hate Marjorie Taylor Greene when she votes for Kevin McCarthy, but when Donald Trump endorses McCarthy, he's okay. When Bill Gates sells the vaccine too much, he's a demon. But when Donald Trump does it, he's an angel. It's like the whole Republican Party is in shambles because there's no consistency. And the whole thing is built on double standards. If you had the same standard for everybody, then it would make more sense. But when you have a certain person or a certain group of people, because of their idol worship to one guy, that they're above those standards, then nothing actually makes sense anymore. You got conservative accounts that I showed weeks ago that literally said that Stacey Abrams was evil. She's a demon. She's deranged because she disagreed with the heartbeat bill. When Donald Trump said the same thing as Stacey Abrams, all of a sudden it's cool. It's cool to throw babies' heartbeats in the trash can. It proves that people have no morals and it's just double standards for their idol. So I don't care if McCarthy's there. I don't care if he's not there. I don't even care who wins the primary anymore. I'm not voting for Donald Trump, but if he wins, I truly think he's going to lose. And I would bet more that he's a Trojan horse at this point than he's the guy that's like really going to save the country. I think he's just there to lose. He doesn't even try to pick up people that don't like him. He just sits on True Social, cancel the debates. He compliments Nikki Haley one week. He's like, "Oh, Nikki Haley, you're so great. I'm glad you're running." I've never liked Nikki Haley, for the record. "Oh, you're so great. Oh, because she's not DeSantis." He watches the debates. He's so selfish. She says one thing about him, and he's like, "Oh, you're bird brain." But it's like, okay, bro, it's funny, I guess, but I don't care about Nikki Haley. But is that a guy that you think is going to win the next election? A guy that literally just talks about himself all the time. He's proud that he rushed the vaccine. He's pressuring the FDA to get the vaccine out so he can have it for his election to make him look good. He doesn't give a shit about science. He doesn't give a shit about truth. He doesn't give a shit about his supporters. He's not even conservative. He'll flip and take a far left stance on something if it makes DeSantis look bad. He has no principles whatsoever. He's not a likable candidate. He's not going to win a lot of people that you need to win an election, but he's the guy that you have to worship or else you're a rhino. But when he does what the rhinos do, then it just doesn't matter now. I don't really care anymore. And I mean that genuinely. When I say something, people say, "Oh, stop talking about it." Okay, I don't care. I don't care if McCarthy wins. I don't care if he loses. I don't care if Trump destroys the party and you guys have Democrats for 10 years, because that seems what people want. They want that, or they want their idea of what they think. It's like, okay, maybe you think getting rid of McCarthy is going to solve all your problems. I guarantee it won't. But I don't care because he's not really doing that much anyway. But I think people need like a massive failure in order to figure stuff out. And then possibly we can rebuild in a couple of years. I'm already pretty much writing off the 2024 election. I'm not putting Trump's name on a piece of paper. I'm voting for DeSantis over Trump. But if Trump wins, maybe I'll vote for him. Every time he opens his mouth, I'm less inspired to write his name down. Part of me hopes he wins because it's good for the country, conservative judges in the border. Part of me thinks he's not going to do anything anyway. And it almost just needs to get so horrifically terrible that people snap out of it. So we'll see what happens, but let me know your comments. I'm going to read a few. I'm almost feeling like nothing's going to happen until 2028, but hopefully not. Someone said Anomaly's been smart citied. I don't agree with smart cities, but Donald Trump does. Have you ever seen his video? He says he's building freedom cities, national government freedom cities. You guys don't understand it. It's like when the left, when they need to trap and enslave the left, they call them smart cities and they tell you it's going to be like fighting racism and good for, efficiency. When the Republicans need to build you smart cities, they just put Donald Trump, the puppet, and he says, freedom cities. I'm going to build freedom cities. It's going to be so free. The government's going to run the cities. It's the same thing. That's why I don't care if the party burns at this point. I hope a real candidate wins. I hope we have a future. I can't deal with 4 more years of Biden. I don't want to, but I understand that that's what Republicans want. They don't want to think logically. They don't want to think critically. It's all double standards. It's all idol worship. It's all just making aggressive moves without tactically thinking about it. And that's why the movement's going to crash and burn and get set up again like they did in 2020 and 2021. And I don't like it. I don't want it, but I'm only one man. I understand. I'm not sitting here and acting like I could change the party. I can't. This is what Republicans want. They want to fail. They want to go with that guy. They want to crash and burn. They want to just act emotionally on politics and not think about how it works. And McCarthy might get replaced by somebody better. He might get replaced by somebody 10 times worse. And you know what? I don't care either way. That's what people deserve in this country. It needs to get worse before it gets better. I don't want it to, but someone said Trump is throwing everything away because of a vaccine. If you objectively listen to Trump talk about any topic, you can realize that he's one of the most selfish people I've ever seen in my life. And that's saying something. He doesn't care about anything but himself. Everything is in relation to him. His interpretation of the vaccine has nothing to do with you, has nothing to do with health, has nothing to do with science, has nothing to do with freedom, has nothing to do with what his friend told him. It's all about him. You get what I'm saying? He tried to rush the vaccine before the election and pressure the FDA to get it out quicker, not to save the world, not to help you, because he wanted credit for the election, for the vaccine. Once he lost the election and he knew he probably wasn't going to be in office, he started steamrolling it because he wanted it out before January 20th because he wanted to get credit and he didn't want Biden to take credit for the vaccine. And if you listen to all of his stupid interviews for the last 3 years, he says that multiple times. He's like, why are they giving Biden credit? It's my vaccine. I rushed it. I pushed Fauci. He didn't rush it to save the world. He didn't hire pharmacy lobbyists to save you from lockdowns. That's bullshit. It had nothing to do with the lockdowns. They gave it to people, locked them back down, and you don't trade your freedom for a vaccine. But in general, everybody makes up fake theories for him because they're obsessed with the guy. But all you have to do is listen to him objectively, and you'll realize everything he says and does has nothing to do with anyone but himself. It's all about him. I want to rush the vaccine. I don't care what happens. I want credit for it, not Joe Biden. I think I saved 100 million lives because my Democrat friend told me to, and everybody on my side's too fake and weak to say something to me, so I could just keep lying to you like this because my Democrats tell us. Like, he's the most selfish person ever. When he talks about the election, he doesn't even care about election integrity. He cares about himself. He wants to win. He wants power. I get it. I want fair elections too, but it's like, you listen when it's like me, mine. If you could say, hey, Trump, would you stand aside and let somebody better run, win by 50 points and save America? He'd probably say no because he wants to try. He wants it. I think he's going to crash and burn the party. And I think I truly think that's what's going on. I think he's being as divisive as possible. He's smashing the party into the ground. He called DeSantis a pedo. He makes fun of every Republican all the time. And then he posts something on True Social and says, why are we always fighting? Like, bro, at least if you're going to fight with Republicans, I'll have your back. If you're being true and real with it, it's like, yeah, okay, go fight all these Republicans. That's fine. But then to act like you're not doing it and everyone else is fighting and you just want to come together, what are you talking about? You know what I'm saying? Like, he's the ultimate deceiver. Like, he's not cool anymore. He's being propped up by a bunch of fake conservative influencers that are just acting like he's Superman now. They're like, oh, what if Trump was Speaker of the House? Trump would be a terrible Speaker of the House. What are you talking about? Have you seen how he leads? Have you seen how he talks? He would make a terrible Speaker of the House. Trump would make a terrible governor. You think Trump would do as good of a job with Florida as DeSantis? Of course not. He doesn't think strategically. He doesn't actually care about people. He doesn't make a team that actually knows how to get stuff done. It's just a big clown show. He hires his enemies. He yells about it. He's friends with Morning Joe, but they act like they're fighting on television for ratings. It's all a joke. It's all a big scam, but whatever. Someone said, show me a perfect person. I'm not looking for a perfect person. I'm looking for a quarterback of our party that could actually lead us in the right direction and spare us of 4 more years with Biden and get some stuff done. I believe that person's DeSantis. He's going to do the same sneaky stuff that Trump did. He's going to do the same BS that Trump did that I don't agree with. But when it comes to actually being, I'm not looking for a perfect person. DeSantis is far from perfect, but to me, he'll probably win the election. He'll probably get people are laughing at it. Once again, I don't care. You sit in your little cult, you sit in your little false religion, your little socialist, globalist, vaccine scammer religion with Donald Trump. You win the Republican primary, you divide the party, you lose millions of votes to RFK, you lose to Biden by 7 points, you get scammed again by Kerry Lake, you run out to the Capitol again, get set up by Trump and the feds. Whatever you want to do, knock yourself out. I want no part in any of this. I don't care. I'm writing your whole movement off until 2028. I posted something about RFK. And me personally, if it were Trump and RFK and Biden, I'd probably vote for Trump personally, but it's not like 100%. And that's sad because that's how annoying and fake Trump is to me that I am starting to despise him. With that being said, I posted my explanation. I said to people, listen, I'm not telling you to vote for RFK. I'll probably vote for Trump over him. I'm not saying you should, but here's why people like RFK Jr. You have to understand why people like him in order to fix the problem. But if you just act like, everyone's a Democrat, RFK's been fighting Monsanto. He's been suing Monsanto when Trump was just a liberal, you know what I'm saying? Just doing basic liberal Hollywood stuff. RFK was suing Monsanto. He sued vaccine manufacturers. He's exposed Big Pharma for decades. So people like the policy and the action of RFK, even though he's a Democrat and will absolutely screw us over. I'm not telling you to vote for him. He'll probably screw us over, but that's why people like him. There's going to be, when I posted this stuff, there were like 20 comments that were like, dude, I'm not voting for Trump. I'm a 2-time Trump voter. I'm not voting for Trump. I'm voting for RFK. I'm not voting for Trump. Like the little cult that Trump has built is getting smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. And the reason it's getting smaller is because he's not cool anymore. He's not likable anymore. He's not doing anything that appeals to people anymore. He appeals to the most extreme element of his base, and average people that voted for him twice that are like, I liked who you were, but now you're running around just being a shill. Like, we just got scammed by the pharmaceutical industry, and you're proud of it. You said you wouldn't even change anything. At least DeSantis is saying that he would clean house at the FDA and the HHS and do stuff. And DeSantis isn't just saying it with empty words. He actually hired a good surgeon general. RFK actually did something. He did court cases, lawsuits, decades of activism. Like, Trump is a clown. We just got scammed by the pharmaceutical industry, and Trump's standing up there being like, I'm proud of it. I saved the world. My Democrat friends told me. He's an idiot. He's going to lose the election. He's already lost millions of his supporters. He's an absolute buffoon. And now he's trying to cancel debates because he won't show up, even though literally debates are what won it for Trump in 2016. He wouldn't be the president without the debates, and now he wants to cancel the debates. He's such a piece of garbage. And the fact that everybody doesn't see this stuff, he's setting you up to lose the election. You're going to get blown out by 15 points because he's lost millions of people, and you're going to be like, oh, it got stolen. Let me follow him to the Capitol again. It's going to be a setup again. Okay, so you can't follow a vaccine salesman to an event. If he's selling vaccines for Moderna, red flag. Okay, that's not your guy. And then people say to me, they'll be like, oh, anomaly. Did the government pay you to say that? It's like, did the government pay me to say that Trump printed more money than Obama and was literally the head of the federal government and like strong-arming the FDA into rushing vaccines? Like, oh yeah, that's such a threat. Like, what are you talking about? Like, Trump was the head of the federal government and printed the money with the Federal Reserve. He doesn't care, but whatever. Let me see. Someone said Kraken part 2. Yeah, there'll be a Kraken. All right. Let me see. Someone said DeSantis is a poodle. Say what you guys want, but I'm just being honest. Like, at this point, you got to build a coalition that's inspired to listen to you. RFK has spent decades, and I'm almost definitely not voting for him, but millions will. RFK has spent decades suing Monsanto. That's cool. He's exposing the pesticide. That's cool. You're eating a bunch of pesticides. Millions of people are probably dropping dead from all the bullshit they're doing in this country. And you're like, Trump, DeSantis is a poodle. Like, you're too stupid, no offense, to even like figure out the food you're eating is essentially poison. You know what I'm saying? You're being like absolutely bamboozled by both parties. Trump hired the pharmaceutical swamp. And I'm trying to explain to you why people like RFK. You're like, who cares? He's a poodle. He's a this. It's like, then lose. You need to lose. I hope you lose. I don't care anymore. I don't care if McCarthy stays. I don't care if he goes. I don't care if Trump wins. I don't care if he loses. I don't care. The Republican Party is as insane as the left wing. And although the left wing makes terrible choices, I don't know what Republicans want to do. It's like they're basically sacrificing their own party. You know, they're like, let's bash it into the ground and blame someone else. Like, how in the world, what type of coalition are you building? Who are you inspiring? What are you even trying to bring people together for a common cause? There's nothing there anymore. Like, it's crazy. How old are you, Anomaly? You're so innocent. That was weird. What are you talking about? You're so innocent, Anomaly. How old are you? Someone said, damn, you're mad. I'm not really mad. I'm just passionate. And in general, it's one of those things. Someone said, here's a comment. Jenny said, I voted for Trump in 2020. I will not vote for him because of the vaccine that's harmed people. There's millions of people who feel that way. And there's millions of people that don't even care necessarily about the vaccine. It's just the fact that Trump is so fake and dishonest that he won't admit that it's wrong. But it's not wrong because you want Trump to say he's wrong because you think Trump's a good guy who's on your side. But Trump's not saying he's wrong because he's on the other side. He's on the side with pharma. He's on the side with the establishment. So he's not admitting fault because he's not wrong. Your perception of who he is not who he really is. And every time you listen to him talk, he tells you who he is and nobody cares. They just have to go on Twitter and make a fake reality about it and be like, oh, he's who I wish he was 5 years ago. No, he's not. He's telling you he's not. He doesn't care about you. Okay. And at this point, I've gotten the memo. Someone said I'm egotistical. If I was egotistical, I would say, I'm going to fix the party. I'm going to run for president. I'm not egotistical. So what I'm saying is Republican democracy will win, or the fake republic that we have. You guys want him. Go crash and burn. And when you crash and burn, I don't care anymore. I understand what's going on. If you guys can't figure it out, that's fine. Lose. I don't care. Go lose. Go run and lose. Go win the primary. Go MAGA, 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 sell a bunch of mugshot shirts and lose the election by 10 points. I don't care. Do that. Go do that. Okay. I don't have the ego to think that I could fix it. I can't. I clearly can't. This is what people want. They get mad when I talk about it. So I say, whatever. I'll brace for what's coming. The same way if you live in San Francisco, you should be bracing for what's coming. Don't be afraid and fearful, but be prepared. If you live in a shitty area of San Francisco and everybody's getting robbed, it's not paranoid and it's not pessimism to know that your neighborhood is not safe. It's reality. So acting delusional about it isn't like a virtuous thing. It's just stupidity. So if you live in one of these cities where everyone's getting robbed and stabbed all the time, understand that and act accordingly. I'm thinking about the same thing with the country. You know, on one hand, America's a great place, but it's clearly declining. It's declining on all fronts, and people don't care. The left doesn't care. They keep voting for it, and the right is rallying around a scammer and a guy that already failed and a guy that's as aimless as they are. So now our movement is completely aimless. There's no aim to it. There's no rhyme or reason. They're just running around flailing their arms, and you're not going to win a chess game that way. So if you guys want to lose, go lose. I don't care. Someone said I've been MK Ultra'd. Not even close. There's a higher chance that happened to Donald Trump, who came into office as a vaccine skeptic, but then he sold out to the pharmaceutical industry, took money from them, hired a bunch of pharmacy lobbyists, and then ran around the country acting like he's Bill Gates. Maybe he got MK'd Ultra, and maybe you're MK'd Ultra because you're following a scammer. You know, you're obsessed with a scammer, and I don't care. Someone said, I love you, Anomaly, but you need to take a breath. Bro, if you need air in your lungs, breathe, brother, but you don't have to project onto me. Should we turn this into a yoga session? Breathe in, breathe out. Someone said, by now there are way too many proven facts regarding those experimental jabs. Facts mean nothing to MAGA. Facts mean nothing to Trump. It's not about the truth. It's not about facts. It's not about what's good for you. It's not about the health of American citizens. It's about McDonald's, Pfizer, Moderna, pesticides, and a clown who works for the people that run the pesticides and the pharma. That's what it's about. It's not about, I know the facts prove that about the jabs, but it's not about facts. MAGA is about idol worshiping an orange guy who sold vaccines for the pharmaceutical industry, who's proud of it because he's on their side and he's not on your side. He's telling you, he's got like a mental programming over people where he's like, I saved you with my 100 billion lives. And they're like, oh, but if anyone else said that, if DeSantis said that, all these influencers, all these losers would be like, oh, look at DeSimp. DeSimp is working with the pharmaceutical industry. DeSimp is working with them. Oh, he can't win president now. He said the vaccine saved 100 million lives. He's talking to Democrats. But when Trump does it, it's like gulp, 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 gulp. How much dirt can we lick off his boots, boys? How much can we sell out the country, boys? How far can we just, it's like, let's take the conservative movement, let's smash it into the ground. It's completely divided. And that's what people are doing. That's what Trump's doing. That's what MAGA's doing. Go do it. That's what you guys want to do. Okay. I'm bracing for it. The same way if I lived in a shitty city and there's crime everywhere, I'm bracing for the crime. Okay. I'm bracing for the reality of what's coming in this country. The conservative movement is going to be so fractured that they're not going to win a major election in the next 10 years at this rate. How can you? You got people like saying, oh, I'm not voting for that. You got millions of people who don't want to vote for Trump because he's an absolute idiot. You got Trump dividing the party completely, just hysterically with no rhyme or reason or intelligence to it, to the point where you got tens of millions of people that are literally only vote for Trump. The whole movement is done. Like, it's over. You know what I'm saying? It's like, I'm over it now. I watch mixed martial arts. I like other stuff. I don't care. Political people are annoying. All these people on Twitter, they're all so fake. They all have double standards. It's just like a giant hypocrisy movement. And you know what? Even like with influencers now too, you see certain influencers that don't actually do anything. They just like do pranks and stuff. It's like, how much can I do for attention? Oh, I'm going to give $10,000 to a poor lady at a gas station. Are you doing that because it's a nice thing to do? Or are you doing that because you know you're going to make more than $10,000? And then you got people escalating it. They're having like mental breakdowns on Twitch and freaking out and getting like dragged away by the police and doing stupid shit. It's like, it's like an attention economy. It's like everybody's like, how much can I do for how bad do I want clout? How bad do I want this? And I know that's like an extreme angle of it in the, space or whatever, but in politics, it's a lot of the same stuff. It's like people just want to seem like they're doing something. It's not even like helpful or real. Like they're just on a loop. It's like, this is what people are going to perceive me as being righteous if I just agree with this guy and just lie. But it's like, think about what you're doing. Listen to Trump speak. Listen to him speak. Watch an interview. This guy is not who he was in 2017. He's not who he was in 2018. The same way that Democrats are playing weekend at Bernie's with Biden, it's a very dangerous game to play, but it works for them because they have the establishment behind them. With Trump, the whole thing that powered him was the debates. Now he's not showing up and he's trying to cancel him. The whole thing that powered Trump was he had the truth. He had righteousness. He's not that guy anymore. He's not going to win acting like an idiot. So it's like, you guys are propping up Trump, even though he's almost 80 years old. He talks slower. He's more delusional. He doesn't even talk about topics that matter anymore. He just talks about himself in a loop. He's not who he was in 2016. He's not who he was in 2017. He's not who he was in 2018. He's not who he was in 2019. And if he wins the primary, because everybody's playing weekend at Bernie's with him, don't cry when he loses the election by 7 or 8 points. He's going to get blown out. He's already lost millions or tens of millions of people to others like RFK who are just disgusted that Donald Trump is a pharmaceutical scammer. Tens of millions of people voted for him for valid reasons in 2016 and 2020. And people are going to vote for him in 2024 too, but you don't have the group of people that you think you have. Like you're not, it's not going to work. He's not good enough anymore. He's not. If you line Trump up and what he's been saying recently with every Republican influencer, Trump's like the worst one of them all. DC Drano makes more sense than Trump. David Harris everybody makes more sense than Trump. Everybody knows that the pharmaceutical industry is corrupt. Everybody's calling it out. Most of the country knows that now. It's not even popular anymore, but not Donald Trump, the leader of our party, gives Hillary Clinton standing ovations and hires pharmaceutical. Oh yeah, we're crushing them, guys. It's like, it's such a scam. It's such an obvious joke. We're picking the worst, fakest person that fell off the map and sold out and being like, here, you should be the president at 80, even though everybody already hates you and like you're not going to win. It's so stupid. Let me see. Someone said, if I was in Trump's shoes, I'd be a pissed off old man too. I don't care how pissed off he is, but it's just like, I don't see it. I don't understand like what he expects or where he's going. Like wherever he's going, I'm not going. It's like the Capitol event. Everyone's like, I'm going to the Capitol. It's like, I'm not, I'm going to the Capitol. I'm not, because Trump sells Moderna shots on Twitter. And you know what? I'm at the point again. I felt this way from November, December, and January. I supported Trump. I was hoping he was still president. I was hoping they found a way to get into president. But the more it went and the more, Sidney Powell tweeted and the more things were going on, I came to a realization. And the more Trump sold Moderna vaccines, as much as I wanted Trump to win, I do think that they cheated. I was hoping they would find more stuff. The whole time in my head, everybody on Twitter is just trying to pressure everybody. Go to January 6th. Go to January 6th. Think this way. Think this way. And I was like nervous to even say how I felt publicly because there was so much public pressure to think like everybody else. And I was like, listen, I want Trump to win. I think he can win. I hope they find a way in the courts. I think the Democrats cheated. I have his back. But at the same time, the narratives kept getting further and further and further. And Trump kept selling Moderna shots every day on Twitter. And I'm like, yo, I don't trust this guy anymore. This is not the guy I trust. He's talking about Moderna too much. And I went with my instinct and I told myself, I'm not going to the Capitol. First of all, I'm not flying on a plane and wearing a mask for 6 hours. Everyone's like, oh, I'm a patriot. You don't even realize there's a bipartisan mask mandate on an airplane. Trump's president right now, and you got to fly 5 hours, 2 hours, whatever, and wear a mask on an airplane just to stand in Washington, D.C. and take pictures for Instagram. It's a fake protest. Like the real protest is both parties just scammed us for 7 months. Donald Trump printed money. They're going to cause inflation. He's rushing a socialist globalist vaccine and he's proud of it. Like to me, the real protest was a bipartisan anti-lockdown protest and everybody's running wearing masks to go do the Trump thing. The whole thing seems stupid to me anyway, but also I was like, I kept calling it a vaccine rally. I was like, is Trump, what is Trump doing at the Capitol? Is it a vaccine rally? Because now I called him Grandpa Moderna. He just Moderna vaccine. And it was my intuition. People, the same people that do it today, that try to bully me, that try to pressure me into thinking like them, some of those people are locked up in prison. Some of those people are went to the big Fed setup. And it's like, my intuition told me something's not right. I do not trust Donald Trump. I'm not a professional activist. I'm not flying for 5 hours to march in the streets for Instagram and act like I'm so great. It doesn't make sense to me. What's that going to do? How is that going to change the election? How's that going to do anything? It's bullshit. Half the people there, as much as they're acting like they're there for their country, they're there for Instagram. They're there for social media. They're there to get content. They're there to feel righteous and just wild out for a day. And you know what? It ended up being a trap. So say what you want about me, shame me, try to bully me like people did from November to January online, being like, oh, you're not a real patriot if you don't do this. Well, I guess I'm not then. I'm a real patriot, but I'm not one that follows a scammer, to an event that's a clear setup. And it's like, I don't, this is the same energy people had for me all 2020 and 20. You shouldn't say that. You shouldn't say that lockdowns are bad if Trump does lockdowns, because lockdowns are good when Trump does it. Anomaly, you shouldn't disagree with his tweet. I mean, Trump said Sweden should lock down. That's like communist and insane. But when Trump does communism, it's good. I was one of the only ones when Trump said Sweden should have locked down. I said, Trump is a salesman. I have the tweet saved. It was from April. I said, Trump is a salesman for communism. He's telling Sweden to lock down. He's a communist, Trump. And people are like, oh, no, he's not, because James Woods told me that that's good that Trump's saying that. Yeah, because James Woods is just like clearly not intelligent enough or real enough to point out the fact that lockdowns aren't cool no matter who does it, whether it's Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump. So this bullshit has been going on for 3 years. That's why I don't even like what I do that much anymore. I appreciate it. I enjoy it. I'm grateful. You know what I'm saying? I'll continue to have fun with it. But really, it's been bullshit since 2020. And people are more brainwashed now than they were in 2021. It's like people keep slipping further and further into insanity on the right of idol worship and just total obsession of personality over policy and reality. And I want no part of it. I don't think you're going to win the 2024 election. I think you're getting set up again. I think you're going to fail. And I think you're never going to realize you fail, because the longer you don't realize your own actions, the more they could just keep doing it over and over and over and over again. It's like already it's been 3 years since 2020. And where are we? And then if it happens again in 2024, do you think anybody's going to admit any sort of strategic error? No, they're just going to say they got cheated again. And then they're going to follow him again. And then they're going to get set up again. And then Biden's going to use that event to persecute everyone again. And he's going to use it to censor more people again. I see it happening. Like the whole thing's going to happen. If people don't snap out of it, it's possible to snap out of it. Someone said, no, anomaly, people are waking up. To be positive, I know that. I absolutely know that they will. I know that more and more people are waking up. What I used to say alone in 2020, now there's tens of millions of people saying exactly what I said in 2020. And guess what? I wasn't the only one then, but there were less of us then. Now it's growing because the truth is going to be the truth. If people can't figure it out now, they'll figure it out eventually. So I know that it's growing. Someone said BRICS failed. I don't know if that's true, but in general, I'm not worried about the American currency and economy. I think if you look at the currencies against other currencies, we're doing well. I mean, I don't know who's running our country, but financially they know how to outmaneuver other people's currencies so far. And I'm grateful for that, because I don't want to be poor. But on that, and I'm talking poor, where it's like our currency doesn't mean shit and everyone's poor. So I don't know what they're doing behind the scenes, but clearly it's somewhat working. But in general, I see this loop that people are caught on, and I'm off the loop. So if people want me back on there, I'm not going back on there. I want to give you another example of the loop that people are on. I'm not saying elections are 100% fair. I don't think they are. I think it's insane to not have voter ID. With that being said, I do think that there's multiple layers to how they cheat. And I think that Republicans don't do enough to counter it. And I do think it's possible to win elections if you get enough people on your side. And you might have to work a little bit harder against the cheating. That's my opinion. With that being said, when I listen to people talk about the election, I'm like, oh, the Republican Party is like a death cult now. They're just on a loop of failing and losing and getting set up and failing and losing and taking no accountability and set up. And it's like, if people in the MAGA movement don't get off this death loop, they're going to just crush the party into the ground for the next 10 years and keep repeating the same mistakes. Let me explain myself. When I talk to people in that world and I say, how are you going to win the next election? And they go, Well, it's going to be rigged. Okay. So it's going to be rigged. Yeah. Do you think that Trump, you think that will win? It's like, well, they'll probably rig it again because we didn't fix it. Okay. So you think they're going to rig the election against Trump and they're going to beat him? Yeah. Okay. So what if I like DeSantis more than Trump? Oh, you're a rhino. You're a piece of garbage. Wait, why do you care who I like more? Why do you care who I like if the election's rigged? It doesn't matter who wins if they're going to lose anyway. Like, why, if you don't believe in the election, why do you care so much about Trump? Like, I don't understand. Like, why does it even matter? And they're like, well, because I like him more. And he's like totally not sold out, even though he is. And it's like, okay, so how are you going to campaign? Like, how are you going to get core groups to like you, like independents, moderates, like women? What message are you going to put out there to inspire people that aren't in MAGA? And then people are like, we don't need, like, they don't even think they need to talk to other people. It's like, we impress ourselves. We like each other. And that's all that matters. It's like, okay, well, how are you going to get enough people to win the election? Well, it's going to be stolen from us. It's like, okay, then, and it's like this loop. It's like, okay, they don't have a plan. It's like a death cult. It's like, we don't even need to get enough votes because we already have enough votes, but it's rigged. So there's nothing we really need to do different. We just need to keep doing the same thing. And if it doesn't work, we're going to take no accountability. And then we're going to go march. And then we're going to get set up. Then we're going to listen to Carrie Lake and Mike Lindell for 4 years. And then we're going to do it again. And then we're going to do it again. And that's until Agenda 2030 comes. It's like, the conservative movement, it's like a controlled demolition. I don't think it's 100% fair. But if you look in the election in the country, hundreds of Republicans won. How did they win? Well, in California, ballot harvesting is legal. So Republicans learned the game. They don't just do what everyone else does. They figured out how to play the game legally, and they won more elections than the last season. Why? Because they figured out the game that they were playing. When you listen to Trump for months, he said, don't ballot harvest even where it's legal. That's ridiculous advice. He's an idiot, like with everything. And finally, he came around, because you can't win an election if ballot harvesting is legal in Democrat states and you don't play the game that they're playing. You're not going to win if you don't do that. So he figured that out. But long story short, also with Pennsylvania and these other states, you can't leave it down to these cities to be counting for 3 days. So you got to win by 5%. If you were going to win by 1%, you got to win by 5%. How do you do it? I'm just saying DeSantis figured it out in Florida. That was a 50-50 election, 50-50. And then he won overwhelmingly. How? Look at it. He did stuff. He did certain things for progressives when it came to environmentalism, like actual like environmentalism. I'm not talking about climate change stuff. I'm talking about like, clearing out land and like certain stuff that they had issues with. I knew people that were Bernie guys that liked DeSantis because he actually fixed some environmental thing that they liked. He led, he opened up, he got people to move there. He inspired millions of people, including people who hate him today, to move to Florida to get away from the tyranny of COVID. And now those same people are acting like he didn't do that. But long story short, he found a way to turn a 50-50 election into like a 57, whatever it was, or however many points he won by. And that's the only way you're going to win the general election. But you guys don't even want to think that way because you just think it's stolen. So because it's stolen, you don't have to do anything to win an election. The way that they steal it is by you cutting it too close. And then they have a lot of time on their hands and a lot of resources, apparently, to make it way less believable than it should be if everybody had an ID and they voted in a day. So it's like, a real winner would be like, hey, okay, the refs are doing this. So now either we don't play. If it's so rigged that you don't believe it's possible, get out of the way. Okay. If Trump's base thinks that there's no chance he's going to win, it's all going to be rigged. Stop running, stop talking, stop tweeting, stop supporting Trump. Get out of the way with someone who thinks they could win. Why would you run if you think it's not possible? And if you do think it's possible for Trump or somebody else, then how are you going to win? You got to campaign properly and reach out to people who don't already like you. You can't just sit on True Social being annoying and pissed off all the time, just screaming hysterically and acting like idiots to people that just love Donald Trump. That's not a way to win an election. So it's like they don't have a plan to win. They have a plan to win the primary and get blown out in the general election. I've already met multiple people saying, I'm not voting for Trump because he's such an idiot and a liar about the vaccine. I'm voting for RFK Jr. I've already met people that said, I would vote for DeSantis, but I'm not voting for Trump. And I'm sure there's a lot of Trump supporters who won't vote for DeSantis. I understand that. But it's like, I don't get that. There is no strategy to it. There's no strategy to it. You got to understand that you have to get groups of people that you don't normally get. you have to convince women that you're better than Biden, the millions of them that should vote for you, but just hate you because you're annoying as shit. You know what I'm saying? But you don't want to do that. You just want to keep being annoying and then act like it's everyone's fault. It's like the cheating is overcomable. If it's not, stop running. You know what I'm saying? I believe it's overcomable. I don't think it's 100% fair, but I also think that there are a lot of people that don't like Republicans. I live in a conservative county, and when I talk to people that are like MAGA, they act like everybody's conservative. They're like, oh, we're getting cheated in most states. And it's like, we're getting cheated in some states, but you have to understand, even in conservative counties, all the kids are liberal. Everybody from like 18 to 27, I would say that like 95% of them are liberal. And as you guys get older, they're getting older and they're not changing to conservatives at the rate that they used to, and they're voting. So it's like, I live in a conservative county, and without question, it's more liberal than it's ever been. The kids are more liberal than it's ever been. The youth is more liberal. The young adults are more liberal. I see it. It's real. It's not like Carrie Lake. We're winning all 50 states. Everybody likes us. They don't like you. They don't like Trump. Some do, some don't. But in order to win an election, you have to admit, if I ran for president, I'd have to say, some people like me, some people don't. Hundreds of millions of people don't want to vote for me. Hundreds of millions that do. You got to be realistic about it and then look who doesn't like you and figure out how to get some people to like you. You can't just be like, everyone already likes us. We're winning. We run the whole state. You don't. Go to San Francisco. It's really liberal. Go to LA. It's really liberal. Even conservative counties in California are turning more liberal, not just in the votes. You could see it everywhere. So people got to understand that that's happening. It's like a death cult to just be like, it's not happening. We're winning all states. There's nothing we have to do. And then when we lose, we're going to say we got cheated. I think you're getting cheated, but not to the extent that people think it is. If you want to believe that everyone agrees with you and everyone likes you, someone said, I live in OC and work in South Central downtown LA. They're with Trump. All right, bro. Yeah. LA loves Trump, man. And the kids in OC definitely aren't liberal, even though like literally 95% of them are. That's cool. Someone said move to the South anomaly. If I wanted to, I would, but I mean, I don't even think that like, I think Texas is turning blue too. Are we going to pretend like it's not? Oh, Texas is more red than it's ever been, except it's not. It's getting invaded by immigrants and it's going to be blue soon. It's already like 54, 36. Yeah. Are we going to pretend like Texas isn't turning more blue? Look at the Trump rallies. I've seen them. They're way smaller than they were last time. He still pulls a lot of people, but in order to win an election, it's not like, can you get 20,000 people who would like lick dirt off your shoes? You got to win a bunch of people. People like thank you guys for proving me that you don't understand it. The correct response would be like, oh yeah, no, we do need to do a better job to win the election. We can't. Someone said, dude, I've been to South Central. I understand conservatives exist, but what I'm trying to tell you, Clay, God bless you, bro. I lived in LA. There's conservatives all over there. It's 35-65, right? Like that's the election. That means 3.5 out of every 10 people is conservative and 6.5 is liberal. It's not that different. What I'm trying to say, my brother, is we got to shift that movement. Like even if 3.5 or 4 people out of 10 are conservative and 6 people are liberal, you got to flip the scales. But in order to flip the scales, you got to admit it's happening. LA has more liberals than conservatives. I'm telling you. Yes, there are a lot of conservatives, but there's more liberals and they win the elections. They almost, changed their mayor, but they went with the wrong candidate. Barely. It was like 55 or 50-50. But in general, it's like, this is the new conservative movement. They just think everybody likes them. I meet liberals all the time. I don't sit and say, oh, they agree with my politics completely. They don't. It's delusional to meet a liberal and be like, oh, they must agree with all of my policies or else nobody exists that disagrees with it. No, that's not how the world works. And that's why conservatives are losing in a lot of cases, because all our issues are actually very likable now. If you look at illegal immigration, most people get it now. When you look at what they're doing to kids in schools, most people get it now. When you look at the inflation, most people get it now. When you look at crime, people are starting to get it now. We're winning on all the issues, but we're following a guy that doesn't talk about the issues. He talks about himself and people don't like him, but you guys don't realize that. So it's like, run that guy and find out for yourself, but you're never going to find out because there's no possible way he could ever lose fairly. It's always going to be stolen from him because he's the most popular person in the world. It doesn't make any sense. If I go and I do a concert in front of 10,000 people, it doesn't mean that I could win an election. Cardi B gets more people than Donald Trump does. Look at a Cardi B concert. It's 20 times as big as a Trump thing. That doesn't mean she could be president. Yeah, it's great to have a rally. And I don't think that Joe Biden's a good president. But what people don't understand is not everybody votes like it's a freaking rock concert. They just vote for the person they like better, or they vote for the person they hate less, or they vote for climate change, or they vote for abortion. They're not voting for Paul McCartney, and they know that. But like Republicans are like, look, Donald Trump went to Iowa and got 5,000 people to stand in a field. Cool. There's millions of people in Iowa. He'll win Iowa, I'm sure. But in general, it's like that doesn't translate. Jay-Z and Beyonce can get 1 million people in a stadium, and they endorsed Hillary Clinton, and Hillary Clinton still lost to Donald Trump. You get what I'm saying? How come that didn't work out? But Beyonce and Jay-Z told everybody to vote for them. They have more fans than Trump does. You know what I'm saying? Because it's not a Taylor Swift concert. It's an election. Yes, you got to be popular. Yes, it's nice to do rallies, but clearly that's not everything. If it was, we'd never win an election because the liberals deploy all the celebrities with like cult followings, and we still win a lot of elections, even with Taylor Swift, Beyonce, Jay-Z, and all these people. LeBron James, the most famous basketball player in recent history, he endorsed Hillary Clinton. He went to a stadium, and they still lost. What I'm trying to say, and this annoys the crap out of me, I'm sorry. I want Republicans to win the next election, but you can't win if you think everyone already likes you already. That's like the new Kerry Lake brand. It's like everyone loves us everywhere. We don't even have to do anything different. It's like, that's not true. That's not true. But if you want to think that we're so likable, everybody likes us, we don't have to change our message at all. You're a bird brain. You're a piece of garbage. You're this, you're that, you're this. You know, General Milley, he's treasonous, even though I hired him. I gave Fauci an award, but, you know, I don't know who did it. I pardoned a bunch of terrible people and Democrats, but that's okay. And foreign spies, because I'm Donald Trump. And, you know, my vaccine saved the world because of a Democrat. Aren't I inspiring you, patriots? Aren't I building a coalition? And some people are like, yeah, this is great. And most people are like, what the hell? I voted for Donald Trump twice. This is embarrassing. Every time I watch him, I'm like, this is pathetic, dude. This is not the guy that I followed in 2017. He's a complete shell of himself because he's surrounded by people who are like, yeah, you're so great. And he just keeps getting older and faker and older and faker. And people are like, this is the same as it was. It's not the same. Everybody just has like, it's like watching Iron Man 7 or something and acting like it's the same as the first. It's not. It's just nostalgic for a lot of people. Ivan said, God bless. I like your content, but what I don't understand is if Trump tries to take more of a liberal or leftist position to win the election, you accuse Trump of betraying Republicans and conservatives. It's a good comment. I appreciate it. Thank you for the super chat, and it makes sense. Here's what I would say. I personally believe that you can win an election and gain people on your side by just telling the truth, but being compassionate and thoughtful with it. Let me give you an example, brother. I'm glad you gave that super chat, and I think it's a really good question. All right. So let's just say Donald Trump with the border. Does Donald Trump cave on border policies? Does he say, you know what? Let's not build a border wall. I feel bad. There's barbed wire. Let's just let everybody across the country. Donald Trump doesn't do that. Why? Because one, it's not really that popular, but also he has a message. There's a reason you're voting for him. It's like, what does Donald Trump do that other people don't do? He wants to build a wall. Wouldn't it be crazy if Donald Trump said, you know what, let's tear the wall down because I think I could win an election? At that point, it's like, what's the point of even voting for you if you're going to tear down the wall that you tried to build just to win an election? So I think that DeSantis is further conservative on the child issue with the trans child stuff. I think DeSantis is more conservative on pretty much every issue, abortion, but he still wins elections harder than Trump because Trump is like the worst of both worlds. If Trump was like this thoughtful, compassionate, reasonable guy that just didn't yell at everybody all the time, then you could play that sort of role where you're like, yeah, I'm pro-choice. But Donald Trump, he goes to a pro-life rally. He's already been at a pro-life rally and he says he's pro-life. So anybody that's pro-choice is going to vote for Democrats. That's their core issue. They're not voting for Trump. Like the Democrats that are he's not gaining Democrats. It's like he acts insane. He acts stupid. He loses people based on his perception, and then he caves on every policy, but people don't even give him credit for caving. He thought caving to Big Pharma was going to get him Democrat support. It didn't. He's wrong. He caved. He sold out. He failed, and now he has nothing to show for it because Democrats don't give a shit. So to me, in order to win the future, you don't have to necessarily cave all your values, but just explain it. Like if I believe a heartbeat is alive, I'm going to explain why I think that, not throw a baby's heartbeat in a trash can to win an election. At that point, you're a straight up demon. What else? Why doesn't Trump dress up as trans? He might win more trans votes if he says I'm Donna Trump and he dresses up like Caitlyn Jenner. Let Trump do that. He might win more votes, right? Why wouldn't I want him to do that? I'm hating on him because he needs to be more liberal to get votes. Caitlyn Jenner got blown out in the election. Nobody cared that they were that Caitlyn Jenner was transgender. They didn't even come close in the governor election or whatever it was, the recall. So all I'm saying is, to me, you actually can win elections without caving on every issue if you're thoughtful and reasonable and compassionate when you talk about it. I think RFK is a great example, although he has no chance because it's the Democratic Party. In general, RFK has made millions of Republicans think about voting for him. How did he do that? RFK is a Democrat. RFK will hire Democrat judges. RFK is very liberal on a lot of topics. How in the world did a liberal who hasn't even caved on a lot of policy, how has he gotten millions of conservatives to like and respect him? How did he do it? Because he's just authentic. He talks about issues that matter, and he's convincing when he does it. Trump doesn't do that anymore. He's not convincing when he talks about stuff. When I watch a video of DeSantis on Bill Maher, and he says his response to why he thinks he'd be a better president than Trump, and Trump didn't drain the swamp, and Trump didn't, get rid of the health agencies, it sounds very believable. I don't fully trust DeSantis, but you could feel it. You're like, yo, that makes total sense. Matt Gaetz, I don't know if I fully trust him, but that speech was like, all right, yes, he's a little bit grandstanding, but at the same time, he's totally right. They did print too much money. They did this. RFK, he talks about Monsanto. He's right. Trump, what is he doing in the last year? He's like a clown. When I listen to him talk, I'm like, this guy's an idiot. He just talks about himself the whole time. He reads teleprompters and it doesn't even sound believable. He says 70% of things that he does. RFK stands for something. And he proved that. Trump, the reason I liked him the first time is because I thought he was a guy who would say the truth no matter who cared. But now I realize he's not that guy, so I don't like him. So in pursuit of trying to win over liberals, Trump is losing millions of his supporters, millions of moderates and independents, millions of people to RFK, millions of people to other people, and he's not picking up that many Democrats because the way Trump acts is insane. If you're trying to pick up suburban women and you're compromising on abortion, hey, women, I like abortion now, vote for me, then chill out on the True Social screaming bird brain and treason. People, that's not smart. Trump's better off not caving on any policy and just acting smarter. You know what I'm saying? He doesn't do that because he's there to lose. He's either so self-centered that he doesn't even think about anything else and he's just going to control, or he actually is just there to do, I don't know what it is, but it's he's at the top of the polls in the Republican primary. With Biden, Biden's half asleep. Yeah, he could beat Biden, but I just think he's got a heavy chance of losing. But in general, I don't think you need to win the culture and win the vote. I don't think you need to cave on every issue and then compromise. That's why the Republican Party doesn't get anything done. You got to sell people on it. I know people that they like certain people that disagree with their politics because they'll say a speech and it's just so raw and true that you can't deny it. When I was more liberal growing up and I leaned left, even though I never liked the Democratic Party, I liked Ron Paul. Ron Paul was my favorite politician out of any politician in the 2010s. Why? As somebody that wasn't libertarian, that wasn't conservative, that wasn't raised that way, or at least I didn't know if I was or not. Nobody talked about politics to me. Why do you think I liked Ron Paul, even though I wasn't a libertarian? Because I could tell he was the real deal. I could tell he was authentic. I could tell that he was the one that was the truest one on stage. That's why I liked Donald Trump for 3 or 4 years. I liked Donald Trump. I made hundreds of millions of views trying to tell people that Donald Trump's not that bad. Nobody told me to do that. I did it because I believed in it. I liked him. He inspired me. He doesn't inspire me anymore. He sounds like an idiot every time he talks. He's a complete clown. He sold out. He's proud of it. And now it's like an idol worship around his ego instead of everybody rallying around him authentically because he's telling the truth and being the best candidate. And I don't think he's the best candidate anymore. So in general, I don't see the same things with the movement, but to win over Democrats and women and win the election, I don't think Trump needs to cave on every conservative policy to pretend like he's pro-life and pro-choice at the same time. I think he just needs to act like a man who believes what he says, act like a man who stands for something, acts like a man who inspires people. I know people that are right-wing that like RFK. I know people that are, right-wing that like Jimmy Dore. Because when Jimmy Dore talks or when RFK talks, you believe them because they believe themselves. You think Donald Trump thinks his vaccine saved 100 million lives? Either he's the dumbest person on the planet or he's lying through his teeth. And nobody calls him out, so he just keeps getting dumber and less authentic, and everybody acts like that's going to do it for him. That's not why he won in 2016. Trump won in 2016 because he was easily the most authentic candidate. He was easily the most believable candidate, and he was inspirational with what he said, and he was saying real stuff like, I'm going to lock her up, and, the government's corrupt. We didn't know that he was going to give her a standing ovation and hire the pharmaceutical swamp and take money after he said he wasn't. It was appealing. Trump's not going to take the money. He's going to go after the deep state or whatever, but he didn't. So it's like at the end of the day, the energy's not the same. And I think we could get back there, but there needs to be some real reflection because I do personally think that him caving on these issues isn't picking up votes because it's not believable. He spoke at a pro-life rally. And now he's trying to say that a heartbeat bill is a bad idea. So now he's pissing off millions and tens of millions of pro-life voters. There's probably over 10 million pro-life voters. He pissed them off. Half of them like him anyway. But now you think like liberal women who want to get abortions are going to vote for Trump over Gavin Newsom or Biden? If people are voting solely on abortion, they're going to vote for the Democrats anyway. Because on that policy, Trump's not like the most pro-choice. Like if you're pro-choice, you vote Democrat. You're not going to vote for Trump. Oh, I hate Trump, but now I'm going to vote for him because he says he's pro-choice. Like Trump's actions and attitudes and convictions, it drives more people away now. And all these little cavings he's doing, like for example, he's trying to say that DeSantis did a bad job on COVID and he killed more people than Cuomo. Who's that appealing to? That makes me never want to put his name on a piece of paper again. And millions of people that know he's full of shit and know he's lying, they don't want to vote for Trump anymore. Who's inspired by what he said? Do you think CNN's going to vote for Trump now? Because they post and say, oh, look, Trump agrees with us. DeSantis, now Trump's finally telling the truth about Cuomo and DeSantis. Do you think any of those CNN people are going to vote for Trump because he agreed with Cuomo and CNN? Of course not. He's not gaining votes by doing that. He's not doing strategic cavings to gain votes. He's just showing he has absolutely no soul and conviction to anything real. It's all about himself, and anybody that opposes him is bad no matter what they do. You know what I'm saying? It's like even if they're right and he's wrong, it's not about right and wrong. It's about me. That's Trump's MO. Someone said, I'm out. You know it all. Why don't you run? Because I don't want to be in politics. But what you don't understand, Tracy, is I'm at peace with the fact that everyone doesn't agree. I'm at peace with the fact that this is not what you want. I'm at peace with you leaving my live stream. I don't care. I the same way people tried to bully me online on Twitter. Oh, every conservative influencer that I was seeing, not all of them, but a lot of them, January 6th, Trump, Patriots. And I know, listen to what I'm about to say, because I'm not agreeing with the media. 99.9% of people there, they had no idea what was going on. It's not an insurrection. At best, people just like freaked out and like a few people went in there. I'm not acting like it was that bad, but in general, so many people were like, you got to go or you're not a patriot. I'm done listening to you, blah, blah, blah. And a lot of those people got screwed over because they didn't go with their mind. They went with their emotions and just like follow. Oh, be a follower. Oh, if you don't follow us, you're a bad person. If you don't follow us, how many of those people were feds to begin with? You get what I'm saying? It's like some of them made mistakes. Some of them got set up. Some of them just got emotional. Some of them maybe had good reasons, but some of them were probably feds being like, hey, follow me, patriots, follow me to the Capitol, follow me. And follow me. It's like, I don't want to follow you. I don't want to follow the conservative movement. I don't want to follow Trump because Trump doesn't make any sense. He sells the vaccine harder than Bill Gates sells the vaccine. I'm not following him anymore to a rally. I'm not following him anymore to the Capitol. I'm not following the guy anywhere. The guy's he's like a Pied Piper. He's like marching people into the ocean. And everybody tries to bully me. Oh, you got to think this way. I don't. How in the world is him caving on abortion going to win votes when he spoke at a pro-life rally? Even pro-choice people know that he's not telling the truth. It's like, he's a guy who stands for nothing. He's this, he's that. He's this, he's that. He's a flip-flopper. And that's the whole reason why people voted for Trump, because they're like, everybody else flip-flops in Washington. Here's a guy who actually believes in something. Here's a guy who says the truth. You know what I'm saying? That's why people like Trump. That's why he won. That's why he built the strongest coalition in modern history. From 2017 to 2020, nobody had a stronger coalition than Donald Trump because it was real. At least it felt real. Maybe it was never real, but in general, it's like, that's how Trump got his power. He didn't get his power through the media. He didn't get his power through lying. He didn't get his power through caving. He got his power through being authentic and genuine. And in interviews, he spoke like a real person. If he's going to sound like a Pfizer representative in every interview and no one's going to call him out, I'm out. And so are millions of people. Why in the world would we want to follow something so fake and so delusional? And no, women are not going to vote for you. No, Democrats are not going to vote for you majestically. I guarantee you, millions of Democrats are begging for someone else to support than Biden. Biden's like the dumbest candidate in modern history. Democrats, they know their cities are shit. They know that things are messed up. They know that the border's insane. A lot of Democrats know this, but Trump is just not the guy to pull them in. He's the guy to throw everybody on the other side or throw them in the middle of nowhere, throw them to RFK. A good Republican that stuck to issues and spoke authentically would win the election by 10 points. Trump is going to cut it really close. You know what I'm saying? He's going to cut it really, really close. I think that guy is DeSantis. I don't care. I think he has, sadly, this is sad to me because I always like Trump more. He has proved that he's speaking more authentically than Trump. Listen to DeSantis speak to Bill Maher. Did he lie? Tell me one lie that he told. I don't care. Point it out. I'm sure he lies, but every time I listen to a DeSantis interview now, he's just like telling the reality of the situation. And I'm like, oh, that's true. When I listen to Trump, I'm like, well, that's not true. Wait, he's against heartbeats now? Wait, he thinks his vaccine saved 100 million lives? Wait, like he's mad at General Milley even though he hired him? Wait, like nothing he says inspires me and it's not authentic. I used to love Donald Trump. He used to inspire. He's not inspiring anymore. He's like a clown. He's literally like an aging clown. And it's like his orange makeup is like, you know, it's like getting old and it's like the shtick is like the same. And it's like, bro, were you never that guy? Was that just like a speech you were reading or something? Cause like the Trump I remember was like epic. The Trump I remember was better than DeSantis. The Trump I remember was better than everyone. This new guy this new shtick that you're doing sucks. Like somebody needs to tell him that his new shtick sucks and to write new material because it's not working. Someone said establishment DeSantis. Trump is just as establishment. I mean, maybe there's a few topics that Trump is not as establishment on, but all the things, give me the most establishment things about DeSantis, and I'll probably agree with you. And 9 out of 10 of them, Trump is also exactly the same on. So I just think he'll win the election. I don't think Trump's going to win. Let me see. I'll read it. Someone said DeSantis swore he wouldn't run in 2024. He lied. Did he swear on the Bible or something? I don't like. Is this movement about loyalty to the vaccine salesman? Is that what this movement's about? You know, Trump did an egregious job for 2 years, just leading and just talking. Like all his interviews, literally all the biggest like Trump guys now. You can go back to their Twitter a year ago, and they're like, DeSantis is our leader. Trump sucks now, and now they're like, I don't get it. And it's like, you just said that 7 months ago. What are you talking about? But someone said I didn't say Trump was not establishment. Why deflect? I'm not deflecting. I'm just saying, I think that Trump and DeSantis are both with certain establishments. So I just don't buy this narrative that Trump is so anti-establishment and DeSantis is so in the bag. Like Trump is also in the bag. Like the bag that DeSantis is in, Trump's face is in the bag. He's got cookie all over his face. He's in the same jar, you know? I can't even think of a single thing that Trump is possibly not as sold out on as DeSantis, except for maybe like the Ukraine situation, which is huge. I'm not even sure about it, but let me see. Someone said the USS Liberty. Yeah, you can't talk about that. That's definitely, don't look that up. You'll get in trouble for that. Someone said, we the people pledge allegiance. We don't swear. The loyalty has to be to like the country. If Trump is being unloyal to the country, if Trump's running around saying my vaccine saved the world, DeSantis doesn't need to have loyalty to a guy that doesn't have loyalty to you. That's the problem with the conservative movement now. They have a fetish for getting scammed. It's like if someone scams them and someone points out the scammer, people get more mad that someone dared point out the scammer than the fact that they got scammed. It's like a fetish for getting scammed. So like if Trump is running around making a fool of himself for 2 years in Republican media, acting like his lockdown was fine, he doesn't regret a single thing, Operation Warp Speed was great, he rushed the FDA, he saved the world, he's a scammer, and then someone's like, yo, that's ridiculous. People get more mad at you for pointing it out. Like DeSantis shouldn't be loyal to the country or to taking on big pharma. He should be loyal to the scammer. Like that's the difference between the Trump movement now and the reality. Someone said ventilators for Trump. Trump still thinks his ventilators were a good idea. He doesn't care. He never cared how many people died, in my opinion, either. He was all concerned about all the alternate drugs for months until his vaccine came out. And he hasn't spoken about the alternate drugs since. Why do you think, knowing how selfish and fake Trump is, why do you think he cared so much about Ivor blank blank and hydroxy blank blank for months? And then all of a sudden he stopped talking about them completely and hasn't mentioned them since. Why? Because when he's in office, if people are dying and they're blaming him of the deaths, he wants to keep the deaths down because it looks bad on him. Once the vaccine came out, he sold out. So he can't talk about those medications, because if Trump were to talk about those medications, then the vaccine couldn't come out. You needed an emergency use authorization. And the only way to get an emergency use authorization is if they can prove that no other drugs work. If another drug works, you can't get the vaccine out. So I think they came to Trump and said, hey, shut up about those alternate drugs, because if they actually work, then we can't get the vaccine out, and all the Regeneron and all the other big pharma, Operation Warp Speed stuff. So at a certain point, Trump never mentioned that stuff again. It's like he mentioned it for months to keep the death rate down to make him look good. But as soon as the vaccine came out, he's like, oh, okay, I get it. I got to stop talking about that now. It's not worth talking about. I just now I'm the Moderna guy. I completely forget about the alternate meds that I was talking about. It's just about Moderna. Someone said Trump had stock in Regeneron and hydroxychloroquine. I don't know if that's true, so I can't prove that, but I wouldn't be shocked, because if Nancy Pelosi has stocks, it's corrupt. And if Dianne Feinstein, rest in peace, has stocks, it's corrupt. But if Donald Trump has stocks, it's totally just fine. It's like nothing matters when it's him. It's like the consistency doesn't exist. The double standards annoy the crap out of me. It's like, if we're going to say everybody that doesn't that likes Kevin McCarthy's a rhino, I don't necessarily believe that that's true, but let's just say that, right? I see all these conservatives on Twitter and stuff saying everybody who likes McCarthy's a rhino. If you support, I saw the Hodge twins tweet it. They said, now we know that government's corrupt because they supported, who supported Kevin McCarthy. Listen, I love the Hodge twins. They're cool. They're awesome. I have no problems with them. Then in another tweet, they say they want Donald Trump to be the Speaker of the House. Trump endorsed McCarthy. Is everybody fake now? Is everybody just playing make-believe? It's like everybody in Congress who supports McCarthy is corrupt. Everyone, except for Donald Trump, because he supported him. But like, he should be it's like everyone's so fake. It's like no one has the same standards for everybody. Nothing anyone says matters if they don't have standards. If it's all double standards, they're just as fake as the left. The left doesn't matter because they don't have the same standards for them and others. They have double standards. They're hypocrites. Now the entire Trump conservative movement are hypocrites. They have no standards for him, but for everyone else, they have unrealistic standards. I agree with, Thomas Massie. He says, like, I would be fine with Byron Donalds, but Byron Donalds can't win because he doesn't stand up to the purity test that Matt Gaetz is doing. Matt Gaetz says if you do this, you can't be the House Speaker, but Byron Donalds voted for that. So it's like no one can live up to certain tests. And it's like, okay, but if I'm fine with having a hard line, if you actually mean it. If that's your line and you believe in it and you agree with it, then fine, that's your line. But if that's your line for everybody except for Donald Trump, then it's not a real line. The line doesn't make sense. It's not, it's fake. That's the movement now. It's like, it's just like ridiculous. You watch, I watched it happen to Marjorie Taylor Greene, and I'm not making excuses for her. I like her, but I'm not making excuses for her, but this is just the truth. When Marjorie Taylor Greene months ago voted for McCarthy, I saw dozens of MAGA influencers hysterical, personally attacking her, dragging her, smearing her worse than Washington Post was. Like some of the most insane, over the top, like personal attacks that had nothing to do with policy even of Marjorie Taylor Greene. And her crime was endorsing Kevin McCarthy. Donald Trump endorsed Kevin McCarthy. And all these people that dragged Marjorie Taylor Greene through the mud, didn't say anything to Donald Trump. They just kept worshiping him like he was their God. It's like nothing anyone says matters. This is why I don't even listen to Republicans anymore. What's the point of listening to someone when their word means nothing? I don't listen to any of these podcasts because it's a bunch of phonies. Like, if you actually believe, I'd rather listen to Jimmy Dore, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., than I would most Republicans. And I don't agree with 80% of their policies, but they actually believe what they're saying. Jimmy Dore believes what he's saying. RFK believes a lot of what he's saying. These Republicans don't believe shit. They don't believe anything they're saying. Charlie Kirk will tweet, oh, I mean, can you believe that Joe Biden's dodging a debate with RFK because he's got 17% of the vote? It's like, well, DeSantis has around that percent of the vote, but Trump's trying to cancel the entire debate. But you won't say anything, will you, Charlie? You'll just say everyone else is donor controlled, even though Turning Point is like an entire donor controlled freaking nonprofit. It's like, oh yeah, everyone else is donor controlled, but not Turning Point USA. How do you think they get all their money? It's like these people are such frauds. I don't care. It's like, dude, support Trump, don't support Trump, but just don't be such a damn hypocrite. It's like, you cry about Biden canceling the debate, but Trump's trying to cancel a primary for not an incumbent. It's psychotic. And then in general, it's like everything everyone feels about McCarthy, it doesn't matter when Trump does it. So I just tune everyone out. Like, if everyone in this movement was like, everybody who votes for McCarthy's a rhino, and they literally went after everybody, I'm not saying I would necessarily agree, but I would believe it more. And maybe I'd want to be a part of it because I'd be like, oh, that makes sense. That's like everyone's like being real fair about this. But now that I realize that almost 100% of people that say if you like McCarthy or you support McCarthy, you're a rhino, but they won't say anything to Donald Trump, now I just ignore them completely. I act like they don't exist because they don't to me. It's like they're not a person that means anything. It's like the whole outrage is all fake because it's being led by a guy who no one wants to call out. When it came to the RNC chairwoman, Ronna Romney McDaniel, she's a Romney. Do you know who endorsed Mitt Romney in 2018? Donald Trump. Do you know who would never endorse Mitt Romney? Me. You know why? Even in 2018, I knew Mitt Romney was a phony. Everyone knew Mitt Romney was a phony, but Donald Trump endorsed him. You know why? Because that's just what Donald Trump does, because nobody cares. Everyone has double standards. Okay. So let's go to Ronna Romney McDaniel, who's probably the worst RNC chairperson in recent history. She's blowing it completely. Nobody likes her. Everybody wants her gone. You know who saved her ass? Donald Trump. You know who endorsed her? Donald Trump. You know who told people to vote for her behind the scenes and in person? Donald Trump. You know who didn't? Ron DeSantis. You know who didn't? Other people. But it doesn't matter, right? We just don't like Ronna McDaniel, but Trump pretty much saved her and put her there, and she's a Romney, and Trump always endorsed Romneys, but that's okay. Like, the whole movement's controlled opposition now. It's like we have hard standards for everyone except for the guy who has more power than anyone. We have no standards for him. So when he does all the stuff that we don't want, when he puts Lindsey Graham on the most powerful stage in the Republican Party, when he keeps Ronna Romney McDaniel there, when he endorses Mitt Romney, when he hires General Milley, when he gives awards to Fauci, when he tells you he likes McCarthy, close your eyes and ears, patriots, because that's what we do. It's like, it's like laughably fake. That's why I don't even care. People get mad. I don't care. Go follow someone fake. I don't like, are you going to lie to yourself for this long and watch somebody that fake and be like, this makes sense to me? You could do it. I don't care. There's millions of channels. Sometimes people say, shut up. It's like, you could click the X and the X button makes me shut up. It's fine. I'm totally okay with it. I'm fine if you unfollow me on Twitter. I'm fine if you unfollow me on Facebook. I'm fine if you click X. I'm at peace with that. I understand that not everyone agrees, but how long are you going to watch an influencer that tells you the hard line that they draw for everyone in Congress, but not the leader of the Republican Party? It's like, do you really believe that? Part of my theory is that people that get mad sometimes, they like my channel because they know I'm telling the truth. And even though they barely hear it because everybody's such liars, they're like addicted to it because they're like, I hate this. But like low key, it's like if it's so fake and bad, just turn it off. I don't watch Rachel Maddow or Joy Reid. Why would I? They're so fake. I don't respect them enough to want to hear what they have to say. But if you're watching me for 3 hours and you're like mad, but you won't click the X button, like I have a theory that a lot of people know I'm telling the truth, and they know it's like shattering what everyone else is saying, and they can't explain why it's wrong because it's not wrong, but they're mad at it. It's like, okay, whatever, watch if you want, don't watch if you don't want. But someone said, wow, I haven't heard you rant like this in forever, Anomaly. You're making some good points. there's a different energy for every live stream. Today's is a little erratic, but it is what it is. I'm being very transparent with you guys. I don't enjoy Republican social media anymore. I don't. I find that 95% of people are full of shit. They know they're full of shit. I know they're full of shit. Apparently people who follow them don't know they're full of shit, but I'm not even trying to fight it. I don't want what they have. I'm a voter. I'm an American citizen. I'm concerned like everyone else. But at the end of the day, if that's what the majority wants, that's what the majority wants. I'm not egotistical to the point where I think I can overrule the majority. I can't. And I'm fine with that. So I listen to MMA podcasts and I work out and I play sports or whatever. Like I do things that I enjoy because I enjoy my job. I like what I'm doing. I like being here. But I don't enjoy Republican politics anymore. I think it's fake. I think it's insane. I think it's delusional. I think Trump works for the system. I think he's going to slam our party into the ground and ruin it for 10 years. I already know he sold out to Big Pharma. He's proud of it. He listens to his Democrat friends about it more than his base. He doesn't care because he doesn't have to care, because why would Trump respect a base that doesn't even respect themselves? Trump doesn't have to respect you if you don't respect yourself. I demand respect. Other people demand respect. Most of his base doesn't demand respect. They're basically just worshipers. So he doesn't respect you and he doesn't need to, because that's human nature. So I'm at peace with all of this stuff. And in general, I'm just being transparent. I don't like Twitter. I don't really like Instagram. I barely post on there anymore. I do my show on Facebook and I enjoy it, but I don't use Facebook. I haven't in years. I don't even like social media. I honestly don't. I like certain podcasts. I like certain shows. Like the way people watch me, I watch other people. I'm not above it. There's certain people I enjoy, but most of it I don't, and I'm just being honest about it. I don't agree with most people. I don't like what they're saying. And I don't feel like arguing for the next 2 years. It's like if people can't figure it out, then it'll be figured out naturally. And that's just what it is. But that's just the word. Like I used to enjoy being on Republican Twitter because we were all on the same page. It seemed very authentic. We were like fighting the lies. But now it's like it's like a game of lies. It's like, well, our guy's lying about everything, but that's fine because he's above standards that we hold for everyone else. And it's like, yeah, I don't like. You know what I'm saying? I don't like a movement that will tweet, Joe Biden is avoiding debate with RFK, who's polling at 17%. But then they say, oh, it's good that Trump's canceling the debates, even though DeSantis is polling like that. Like, I don't like that. I don't like these people. I don't trust these people. I don't believe them. I'd probably vote for them over Democrats, especially locally. But I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I like it. I don't. I can't stand Twitter. I can't stand most of Instagram. It's okay. I mean, I just, it's like social media. It's not fun anymore for me. It's like, most of it is just social media. It's just like too much for everybody. It's like overstimulation. We've had it for so long. It's like, all right, let's get on to the next thing. But on that note, someone said, who's lying? I'm telling you, pretty much everybody who has double standards. If you think anybody who supports Kevin McCarthy is a rhino, then I can respect that if you believe that. But if you say everybody who supports Kevin McCarthy is a rhino, except for Donald Trump because he's my deity, then you're fake. You know what I'm saying? So anybody that's like that is lying to you. They don't believe it. If Charlie Kirk tweets out that RFK should debate Joe Biden, who's the actual incumbent, even though it's pretty rare for incumbents to debate, and if he doesn't do it, that's terrible. Okay, I believe that. But in general, if Trump tries to skip a non-incumbent debate with people trying to get in office, and Charlie Kirk says nothing about it, then he never believed what he said in the first place. He was just saying it against Biden. If your group is socialism sucks and you're against socialism and deficits and money printing because that leads to inflation and it ruins societies, which it does, how are you going to basically just coddle the biggest socialist in modern history who just printed some of the most expensive spending bills just because they have a Republican next to their name, when I know damn well Charlie Kirk would probably call them out if their name wasn't Donald Trump? Instead, they're the speaker and nobody can disagree. It's like nobody believes anything that they say on the Republican Party. And to be quite frank, this is why so many young kids are Democrats, because they look at people like Charlie Kirk who says socialism sucks, but then Donald Trump does socialism and he doesn't have shit to say, and they know he doesn't mean anything that he's saying. It's like if you think that socialism sucks and money printing sucks, then you have to mean it. If you don't mean it, then who cares what you ever say? Why even listen to these people at all? That's where I'm at. I'm not ever listening to the Charlie Kirk show. I'm never listening to the Tim Pool show. Like these people, I don't believe them. You know what I'm saying? Do they say a lot of things I agree with? Sure. But like, Tim Pool's like, oh my gosh, DeSantis ran an ad with an AI image and now I can't vote for him. It's like, people in the Trump campaign have done that 5 times. I'm not saying it's right, but like, if you believe that running an AI image in an ad is unforgivable, but Trump's already done it 3 times, that can't be why you're voting for Trump. Like, it doesn't, you get what I'm saying? It doesn't actually make any sense. Nobody's making any sense anymore. Like, Tim Pool's a phony. All these people are phonies. It's fine. Agree to disagree, but it's like, I just, as a consumer of media, I don't want to spend that much time on it because I think I explained it pretty obviously. But if you say something and it applies to everybody except for Donald Trump, nothing you say matters because you don't actually believe that. It's not about that. It's about worshiping that, so just say that. If these people came out, like if Charlie Kirk came out and he said, I am a Trump worshiper, I am a Trump bootlicker, Turning Point takes donations. So when I say that everybody's donor sold out, I'm being a hypocrite because obviously my nonprofit takes a bunch of donations and we run off donations, and I'm sure they listen to their donors. So every time Charlie Kirk talks about donors, he could look at himself, but he'll never tell you that. But everybody knows that. Anyway, it's like if he said, I just worship Trump, I don't care about socialism, I don't care about donor money, I just like Trump, I would respect Charlie Kirk. I'd be like, no, he's telling the truth. He's conservative. He cares about this, but he really just worships Trump. But he says socialism sucks and the donors are taking over DeSantis. Bro, your entire thing is donor funded. What are you talking about? Or at least a large portion of it. It's like Trump also takes massive amounts of donor money, but you'll never talk about it. So like, you don't actually care about that. You're just worshiping that guy and holding him to a different set of standards. Just be honest about it. I have more respect for somebody who says, I love Donald Trump. I worship Donald Trump. He is my idol. I don't care about anything. I have no policy. I have no politics. I don't care if we win or lose. I don't really care about anything. I just like that guy and I want to vote for him because I like him. I could respect that because that's like honest. I'm like, okay, well, I don't know if that's like the best reason to vote for somebody, but that's why you voted for him and lots of people vote for that reason. So that makes sense. But I don't like the fact that the Republicans over the last 2 or 3 years have become total hypocrites. And I could tell you why they've become total hypocrites. It's because Donald Trump used to be cool and authentic. So when Donald Trump was cool and authentic, everybody could defend him and be truthful. It's like, well, he's telling the truth and I'm telling the truth and this is the truth. And everyone's like, oh, that makes sense. After 2020, Donald Trump lies more than he ever lies. He sold out more than he's ever sold out. And he sounds like a buffoon more than he's ever sold like it. So now you have 2 options. If you're someone like myself, either you cover it accurately and you're like, yo, this guy's saying his vaccine saved 100 million lives because of Democrats. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. I would say that if Rachel Maddow said it. Or you could play the route that these people play, like the Charlie Kirks of the world, and be like, I'm going to now have to change my whole ideology to try to defend a guy that I don't believe in. And I have to convince other people that it's okay when he does it, but other people don't do it. So like, they've chosen the path of becoming hypocrites with double standards, because when Trump's telling the truth about everything, it's easy to defend him because he's right and they're wrong. And now you're leaning into authenticity. I personally thought that's what we were doing. I thought we were rallying behind him because he was the best and the realest. I didn't know that these people were just, and it's honestly my fault because I should have known. If you're like a lifelong Republican and you've been in Republican politics for 10 years, you probably are a phony. It's my fault for not realizing that that's what this was. I thought we were behind him because he was right and crushing and real and authentic and going to do. I didn't realize that nobody cared. Like I didn't realize that it was like, if Trump ever sells out and lies and does socialism and sells vaccine for the elites and lies about it and doubles down on it and says that Sweden should have locked down, then now we're supposed to morph our opinions and become communists, socialists, and tyrants because Trump did it. I never did that. I said it's a bad idea for Sweden to lock down. Trump said it's a good idea for Sweden to lock down. Now you have Anomaly who actually believes in liberty, and you have a bunch of Trump supporters who are now defending communism because Trump said a communist tweet. Saying Sweden should lock down is a communist tweet. Trump is asking Sweden to be more communist. I'm actually against communism and socialism, so I say no. And all these other puppets say, no, that's cool when he says it. So you don't understand that this movement has nothing to do with freedom. It has nothing to do with liberty. It has nothing to do with conservatism. It has nothing to do with pro-life. The Trump movement is idol worship of Donald Trump. It's become a socialist, communist, baby-killing movement where nothing matters. They'll take a baby's heart and throw it against a brick wall if it meant 20 more minutes at a Trump rally with a Mar-a-Lago steak shoved in their throat. This is who these people are. I didn't know this is who these people are. I thought it was like a real movement of real people who believed in real things. I'm stupid, I guess. I thought that's what we were doing in 2017, 2018, 2019. I had no idea if our party started doing socialism and communism and medical tyranny, that we were supposed to defend that, because I never would have done it. I'm not that type of person. I don't care if Trump, DeSantis, Megyn Kelly, Hillary Clinton, if I believe something and I could prove it and I have facts on my side and I have information on my side, I'm going to speak what I believe and stand up for liberty no matter who says what. Like, the biggest test of who's a communist and who's actually a conservative, or who's a liberty-based person, even if they're not conservative, was when Trump said Sweden should lock down. It's not hyperbolic. It's the truth. If you say that Sweden should lock down 2 months after a communist lockdown that destroyed our economy, and you're telling Sweden to lock down, you're a communist. You support communism. You want Sweden to be more communist. You're proud of American communism. I'm against communism. I'm against government tyranny. I'm against anti-liberty movements to that extent. And Trump was for it. And James Woods and Jack Posobiec and a bunch of other people rallied behind Trump in May and were like, look, he's crushing Sweden. Sweden sucks. And I'm like, what? You know what I'm saying? So then I realized it's like, I'm just in a different path. I don't hate these people. I don't dislike these people, but that's not what I do. That's not what I'm ever going to do. That's not what I want to do. And that's what a lot of people are doing. It's not about policy. It's not about conservatism. It's not about God. It's not about freedom. It's not about, whatever. It's not about fighting, pharmaceutical tyranny or making Americans healthy. It's about just fighting the left. And it doesn't matter what your guy does or how far they fall, or even if they're openly calling for communism in a foreign country. That's okay, because the movement is supporting that guy over liberty. The movement is supporting that guy over babies' heartbeats. The movement is supporting that guy over the freedom of speech, or over, just blatant lies about pharmaceutical tyranny. And that's what the Trump movement is now. It's clearly that. Every day they do stuff, they prove it's that. If you're freaking out at Marjorie Taylor Greene hysterically because she endorsed McCarthy and Trump also endorsed McCarthy, but you don't say anything to Trump, it has nothing to do with McCarthy, and it has nothing to do with who supports McCarthy. It's a idol worshiping cult around Donald J. Trump. It's like nothing matters except for sucking up to him. That's all that matters. Nothing matters. And for that reason alone, Republicans deserve to fail. Republicans deserve to lose. Like, why would a movement that believes in nothing and stands for nothing win? Like, on what planet are you going to accomplish anything? I don't understand. Like, what is this even about? Is he better than Biden? Sure. Yeah. But like, at what cost? Like, is this, can you tell yourself that what this movement has become this year is the same as it was in 2018? I don't think it was. I mean, maybe I was wrong then and Trump was always doing that stuff, or maybe he changed. I don't know. I have to go back and look at stuff, because I took what he was saying at face value. I thought he'd never take money from donors, but he did. I thought he'd never take money from corporations, but he did. I thought he was standing up to big pharma and he was skeptical of vaccines, but instead he sold out to them. Like, I guess I was wrong for believing him. I should have just assumed he was lying, I guess. I don't know. I guess my interpretation of the situation was not everyone else's. I liked Trump because I thought he was a man who believed in something and was willing at all costs to say the truth. That's what inspired me to like Trump. It wasn't a guy who caved on an issue that he didn't believe in. Like, imagine if I was really pro-life and I just said I was like super pro-choice just to like gain, like, to me, that's disgusting. Like, I'll tell you what I believe and I'll try to say it in the most reasonable and compassionate way possible. And I'll try to break it down like and spoon feed it to people, but I'm never going to just pretend to be something completely different just in order to like make someone like me. I don't like that. That doesn't inspire me. I'm into authenticity. That's why I like Donald Trump. If he's not that anymore and the movement's basically just a PR team for everything he does and trying to act like it's so great when it's clearly not, it's like, I'm not interested, and I'm okay with not being in that world. It's like, I'll do my show, I'll do my job, I'll do something different if I eventually have to, but I'll never be that. I will never be that. I didn't come this far to just cave that hard. I didn't work this hard to be that fake. And at a certain point, it's going to flip. whether it's in a year, 2 years, whenever, 4 years, it's going to flip. People are going to snap out of it. They'll figure it out. The same way the liberal cities that don't want to talk about crime will figure it out also. It's like, it's not what it was. And I say this respectfully, and I'm not trying to scare people, because in general, I think you should enjoy your life and be happy. But America is not what it was. The cities are not what it was. Some people try to say, oh, Anomaly, you're paranoid, you're this or that. I'm not paranoid. I do a lot of stuff. I enjoy my life. But like, going to Los Angeles is not what it was 8 years ago. So if you're walking around Los Angeles with a Rolex on, acting like it's like 2005, it's not. So you got to pay attention to what's really going on in this country. This country's falling apart in a lot of ways. In many ways, it's great. In many ways, it's going to. But if you live in one of these high crime areas like San Francisco, or Washington, D.C. or anywhere, it's like, dude, I hate these places. I don't like Washington, D.C. Like, it's like your chance of getting carjacked is way more than it ever was. Your chance of getting robbed and mugged is way more than it was. There's stories of L.A. all the time. You buy some high-end stuff, they follow you home and they rob you once you get home. Like, you don't like, if you live in one of these high crime areas, you don't live in the world that you want to live in. You live in the world that it is. And Democrats, for whatever reason, they don't want to face that. So it just keeps wearing down and wearing down. But eventually they're going to have to face it because it's real. And if you're conservative and you're stuck in one of these cities, you also have to face it, even if you don't vote for it. It sucks. They vote for it, you don't. But that's just the reality of the situation. So it's like, America, I'm looking at it the same way. I wish it was something else. I wish Trump was someone else. I hope he does something, but I'm really not expecting it. Like, I would be shocked if major liberal cities just majestically changed. I hope they do, but I don't see it happening. And same with Trump. I would love if he just like crushed and was amazing and so honest and raw and won and saved the world. Like, I would love that, but like, I don't see it. I just don't, but I hope it happens. I don't live based off hope. Like, I don't walk in a hood at 3 a.m. with a Rolex on and just hope that no one robs me. Like, that's not the world I live in. If I ever did that, I would not have a Rolex on. I don't even buy expensive stuff like that anymore because I know the world we live in. When I was broke, I tried to act like I was rich. When I made a little money, I stopped caring what people think. So it's like, there's a lesson there. But in general, even if I wanted to buy something expensive now, I wouldn't for multiple reasons. But one of them is like, I don't live in the world I want to live in. If I bought a $50,000 Rolex and just walked around, my chances of getting robbed or at gunpoint just went up like 1,000% because it's happening all over. Even in nice areas, people are stalking people. Like, you get what I'm saying? It's like, I'm realistic about the world I live in. Like, I don't got nothing for anybody. You could, I don't have anything for you. I don't have expensive stuff. I don't want expensive stuff. It doesn't make me happy to the extent. I mean, nice clothes makes me happy, like things that aren't falling apart. But in general, it's like, that's the world we live in. And hopefully, eventually, it'll change. Hopefully, you could raise your kids in a world where they won't get robbed, or, you could live in a city that everybody's not getting like stabbed. But we don't live in that reality. And in my opinion, demographically and just in general, like, I don't see any of that changing. I just see it getting worse. And I don't think that people really have a solution for it. And we'll see. But we'll see how it happens. Hopefully it gets better, but that's just kind of how I see it. I'm not like freaking out about it because the world is what it is, but that's how I see Republican politics. I'm like, dang, this sucks. I thought it was something else, It's like LA. You go to like Hollywood and you think it's like Hollywood. You're like, oh my gosh, I'm going to meet Marilyn Monroe, even though she's dead, but oh my gosh, I'm going to meet this person. And you go to Hollywood and you're like, holy crap, this is not what I thought it was. This is like totally different. This is like really crappy. I lived in Hollywood for years. I like it in a weird way, but it is disgusting. But it's like so many tourists go to Hollywood and they're like, this is not what I envisioned it was. That's like, big cities for a lot of people. That's kind of like the Republican Party to me. I was like, this is not what I thought it was. Someone said, then who? If not Trump, then who? I think DeSantis is a way better leader than Trump on almost every metric now. I think he will win the election. I think he can gain moderates and independents. I don't think he's as annoying and hateable as Donald Trump. I think he could get millions of women to vote for him. I think he could get the Bill Maher and the Joe Rogan crowd to vote for him. I think he could get Elon Musk to endorse him. I think DeSantis would beat Biden by 7, 8, 9 points. I think he would drive every conservative talking point home and convince people without caving on his issues. If DeSantis talks about abortion or DeSantis talks about LGBT school stuff, he does it very intelligently to the point where it's hard to disagree with him. And even Democrats would be like, that makes sense. Donald Trump is a circus clown. He's a total clown. You think Trump can talk about the LGBT stuff in the schools and be as appealing and convincing as DeSantis? He can't. You think Trump can talk about, he won't even tell the truth about what he thinks about abortion because he doesn't want to seem, he doesn't have any conviction like that. So personally, I think DeSantis would win the election by 10 points. Lori said DeSantis is a globalist. The COVID vaccine is the most globalist product in modern history, and Donald Trump is proud of it. Donald Trump is a globalist socialist. He's a socialist globalist, okay? He took the most globalist product in modern history and sold it harder than Bill Gates and runs around and tells people he saved 100 million lives. Everything you accuse of DeSantis, whether it's true or not, is also true of Donald Trump. He's not a globalist. He literally sold the most globalist product in history, and he's not even remotely ashamed of it because he's not who you think he is, and he doesn't have any standards. So he can literally stand in your face, take the number one globalist socialist product in modern history, the COVID shot, and say, my Democrat friends told me this saved the world and I love it, even though no one in my base does anymore. And you're like, yeah, this guy's totally not sold out, but everyone else is. It's like, he knows how weak his base is. He knows how spineless his base is. He knows how, like, his base doesn't demand respect from him. So he doesn't give you it. He shouldn't. Why would he? Someone said that's a big lie. Trump, stop abortion. You can't. If you could speak in a full sentence that isn't misspelled, then I'll answer. But it's like if you can't even form a sentence, then I don't know what the point is. He put in Supreme Court justices who overturned Roe versus Wade, and then he shamed Republicans who actually used the overturning of Roe versus Wade to save a baby's heartbeat. So he helped with the Supreme Court justices, but then he wants Republicans to not use it. So what's the point of overturning Roe versus Wade if you're not even going to use it? Here's another strategic thing is why Trump fails and he's going to blow the party. Overturning Roe versus Wade is not technically good for elections. I don't think it's everything, but I would still do it if you believe it's righteous, right? So you overturn Roe versus Wade with your judges, and now it's overturned. Like, whatever the consequences of that are what they are. You know what I'm saying? You already overturned it. You already lost those votes, whatever. And then people are like, well, if it's overturned, I guess I'm going to pass a heartbeat bill now and save babies' lives. And Trump's like, no, don't save babies' lives. Don't pass a heartbeat bill. That's bad for the election. It's already over. What's the point of overturning Roe versus Wade if you're not going to use it for a pro-life cause? There's no point in overturning it if the leader of the Republican Party says if he was governor, he wouldn't have done it. He's an idiot. Trump is a complete idiot. So he's pro-life, but if he was the governor of Florida, he wouldn't pass a heartbeat bill. Then what the hell is the point of overturning Roe versus Wade if Trump wouldn't even use it? He's a buffoon. He's a clown. He's like a freaking Trojan horse, just running you off a cliff. Nothing he says or does makes any sense at all, ever anymore. He used to make sense about everything. Now he's like the biggest dummy in the Republican Party. And people are like, he's not a globalist, though, because he sold their product really hard and still lies about it. It's like, someone said, you have a temper problem, and I suggest insulting your followers will not serve you well in the long run. Not everything is black and white. That's what they say. We'll see. Time will tell. Someone said, Trump started to make me sick when he did nothing about the riots during COVID, yet allowed law-abiding citizens to be locked down. Yeah, I mean, it's almost like a point where, like, you notice one thing and you're like, dang, that's a little red flag. And then you notice another thing, and you're like, that's kind of a red flag. And then you notice another thing, and you're like, that's a huge red flag. And then it's like Trump's literally dressed in an outfit, and his whole outfit's just red flags all over it. And he's like, my vaccine saved the world. And it's like, and like everyone's like, I don't see it. I'm like, okay, if you saw it, we could address it and we could fix it. But if nobody wants to address it, then it's not going to get fixed. And there's no point of even being a part of the party. So let me see. Someone said, Trump ruined red meat for me. He signed a bill that lets meat companies use 30% extra junk, such as tendons. See, I didn't even know that because it's like we're so busy fighting over stupid drama that nobody ever even realizes they did that. Now that I realized that Trump was a phony, I've gone back and looked at stuff, and the more stuff I look at, like there's so much crap that he didn't do, and there's so much crap that he signed off on where you're like, oh, they just put Trump there to make us think something was going to be different. Like they're really good at that. It's like Obama, he's half black, he plays basketball, he listens to rap music, and people are like, oh, he's so good. And then it's like, he didn't do shit for 8 years. And then people got pissed off because their health insurance got expensive. And they're like, here's a billionaire liberal who's friends with Hillary Clinton, who's going to pretend to be conservative now. And people are like, oh, and he's going to talk about the deep state, even though he works with them. And then we all were like, that guy's going to crush it. And then like after it only took me 4 years, maybe other people, it's going to take 8 years, but I'm like, oh, damn. That was not what I thought it was. And then after Trump's election, you could really learn his true character, right? I gave him a pass for a long time, even though I disagreed. It's like, okay, he's out of office, right? He's a normal citizen. And now he's not even the president. So let's hear what he says in interviews. And if you listen to Trump's interviews from 2021 to 2022, Trump's interviews out of office were dumber, faker, worse, and more compromised than anything he said in office. So I realized Trump was a phony after office because I'm like, maybe his hands were tied, whatever. Like, and then you listen to him out of office, it's like, oh, you're like, oh no, he's just a scumbag. Like he doesn't care about anybody. Like listen to his interviews. He's like, my vaccine, I want credit. I saved the world. We wouldn't need mandates if I was in office because everybody would have wanted to get my shot. And, it's like, you're like, this guy's an idiot. I'm like embarrassed that I ever thought he was cool at this point because in office, I gave him all these passes. And then now he has 2 years to impress me. Go do some interviews, Trump. Tell me the truth. Tell me something raw. Tell me something real. And his interviews after office were the dumbest things I've ever heard in my life, where I was like, holy crap, this guy sucks. Like I thought this guy was awesome. This guy sucks. And now every interview he does, Megyn Kelly, I'm like, this guy sucks. And everyone has to pretend like it's amazing. Listen to what he says to Megyn Kelly. With just a little bit of pressure, Trump folds like an absolute lawn chair and wants to cancel debates. Listen to DeSantis with Bill Maher. Bill Maher pushed back a little bit and tried to get him, and DeSantis crushed him and got his own audience to cheer against him. Like, that's huge. Trump could never do that. You think Trump could go on Bill Maher and answer questions? That he doesn't like questions. He doesn't like to be challenged. He doesn't like debates. He wants to cancel that. He's a poll guy now, even though he hated polls. He's Hillary Clinton now. He loves polls and he wants to cancel debates. It's ridiculous. Someone said, I think he's trolling when he does that. I don't know what, like he's trolling when he says what? When he says that mandates wouldn't exist if I was president because everyone would have wanted to get the vaccine. He's not trolling. He's telling the pharmaceutical industry and the people that probably control him, you should have picked me over Biden. If you would have let me be president, I would have convinced all my stupid followers to go get the Trump vaccine and you wouldn't have even needed mandates. That's what Trump's doing with that. He's not trolling. He's virtue signaling to the elite saying you should have picked me. All these problems with vaccine compliance you're having, it's because you picked Biden. You should have picked me. I would have convinced my MAGA people to go get the Trump vaccine. Of course that's not true. Of course he's lying, but that's all he ever does is lie. Trump is such a pathological fraud that he thinks that everyone would have got the vaccine if he was in office, and it was only because they didn't like Biden and trust Biden. He said that if I was in office, everyone would have wanted to get those shots. We had 1 million rocking. They only don't get it because they don't trust Biden. That's how lowly he thinks of his base. He thinks you're so stupid and so weak and so delusional and so subservient to vaccine daddy that you would have ran and got the Trumpy pumpy if he told you. And the only reason that you didn't get it was because of Biden. And if Trump was in office, you wouldn't even need mandates because Trump would have got all his Trump supporters vaccinated for the elites. Can you believe that? And you guys still worship this guy? It's like a pathetic movement now. I don't care. I don't care what people think. I don't care who gets offended. I want no part in a movement like that. Like he's telling you to your face that he doesn't even respect you enough. I respect you and like you to try to wake you up. If I really didn't like you and respect you, I'd just ignore it completely and talk about other shit. But I know that most Trump supporters are great people. I know that it's the most important coalition in this country. If I didn't think Trump supporters were important, I wouldn't say shit. I think the Trump movement is one of the most important and most powerful coalitions in the world, but your leader doesn't like you or respect you, and he thinks that you're so weak and subservient to him that you would have ran and got his vaccine if he told you to. And he's like telling the elites that in an interview. He's like, if I were president, we wouldn't even need mandates because my people would have got the shot. We would have got millions a day. We had it rocking. The only reason people don't get the vaccine is because they don't trust Biden. Like, that's how lowly Trump thinks of you. And I'm trying to prove him wrong. But every time people get mad at me, they prove him right. They're like, no, we are that. We are that. And I'm like, okay. So then why wouldn't Trump treat you like that? Like, when you boo Lindsey Graham, he goes, I'll fix them. I'll change them. I'll fix them. Like, you're like his little pawns. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's like, I'll deal with these minions. I'll deal with these dummies. They'll listen to me in 2 weeks. They'll believe anything I say. Like, it's like he has that energy like now all the time. And people are like, it's like, no, I like you. I respect you. I don't want 4 years of Biden, but we're going to get that if people can't snap out of this stuff. How am I the only one? Has anyone else covered this? Any other Republican influencer that Trump went on an interview and said, if I was president, we would have all got the vaccine. We wouldn't have needed mandates. The only reason that people don't get the vaccine is because they don't trust Biden. That's literally Trump trying to tell the elites in the pharmaceutical industry, you messed up by letting Biden in office, because if I were there, we would have had more compliance and we wouldn't have needed the mandates. My people would have got the vaccine. The only reason my people didn't get the vaccine is because they don't trust Biden. Do you know how lowly all of these conservative influencers must think of you to never mention that and just gaslight you into thinking it never happened? Like, the leader of our party is just pathologically lying about all this shit all the time, and everybody just plays Weekend at Bernie's with Trump, and they're like, it's not happening. Hey, if you ignore it long enough and we sell trading cards and NFTs and Charlie Kirk, then no one will notice it. It's like, I've noticed it for 3 years. I've noticed MAGA influencers try to sell communism to Sweden because Trump was pushing communist policies on them. Like, that's insane. This movement is like a total joke. You know what I'm saying? And it's getting to the point now. There's two options. I'm going to say this before I leave. There's two options in my head that I'm thinking, and I'm only one person. I don't have that much influence. I don't think I'm going to be able to change an election or anything. So it is what it is. But there's two options now to me of who I want to win the election, or at least like what I think is best, because I'm not even really sure. On one hand, say Trump wins the primary, right? On one hand, I want Trump to win the election because even though he's annoying to me, he would pick federal judges, right? He'd pick Republican judges that were better than Biden's judges. True. Fact check, true. He would pick a better Supreme Court justice than Biden would pick. That's definite. That's true. Trump would do a better job with border security. Absolutely true. There's a chance that Trump actually, holds up his end of what he says he's going to do with immigration and gets rid of the millions of people coming across and actually solves the problem. There's a chance of that. I don't know if he'd do that, but he'd definitely try harder than Biden. Maybe, the war in Ukraine, there's a chance that maybe Trump would do something different, and that chance is enough to roll the dice on it. That's why I would vote for Trump over Biden. Guaranteed better federal judges, guaranteed slightly better cabinet, maybe. You know what I'm saying? Probably not. I don't know. He hired the swamp last time, but like maybe he hires someone better, and then he could replace Clarence Thomas with not some liberal that hates us. That's pretty much the only reasons I'd vote for Trump, and everything I said before. With that being said, part of me doesn't care who wins the 2024 election, because at this point, I almost feel like Republicans need to fail harder in order to wake up. Because it's like, if he loses the election by 10 points, I don't want that to happen, but like, people got to move past Trump eventually. He's not like, you don't hold on to Ronald Reagan for 50 years. Like, you got to find somebody better. Trump failed. Trump caved to the pharma swamp. Trump said lockdowns were good. Trump told Sweden to lock down. Trump says his vaccine saved 100 million lives. Trump sucks, okay? He's going to be remembered like Ronald Reagan as some saint when he sold out America, just like Reagan did. Reagan did amnesty, which probably ruined the Republican Party forever. Reagan did the National Childhood Vaccine Injury Act, which has affected, in my opinion, millions of kids negatively. And everybody acts like Ronald Reagan was this amazing president. Yeah, I'm sure he was nice and he was an actor, but he was an actor. He kept the peace and he did some things, but he did two policies that have probably hurt more people and Republicans than most other policies. But sure, yeah, he was a great president. I just don't think so. With that being said, it's like, how long did people talk about like Reagan? Were they like, oh, Reagan needs 8 years, Reagan needs 12 years, Reagan needs to be for 50 years, everybody needs to be Reagan, we're Reaganites now? It's like, I don't know, I wasn't really around then, or I didn't pay attention. So how long did that last? Like, eventually, like, people had to like rebrand and be like, all right, we need, like, he can't work forever. With the whole Trump thing, it's like, how, like, dude, people don't ever want to let this go. They're like, yo, let's get 8 years of Trump, and then we'll get Barron, and we'll get Don Jr., and we'll get Eric Trump, and then we'll get his daughter. And it's like, No, dude, eventually we got to move on. Like Trump did a lot of good things. Trump was really funny, but Trump also really failed. And the more he talks, the more you realize he actually doesn't give a shit about anything. And he's not who people pretended he was ever. And like, we have to find somebody better, like soon. We don't have that much time. We got to find somebody better, somebody stronger, somebody that hires the good people, somebody that doesn't get tricked all the time, somebody that doesn't let Jared Kushner run his administration. Like, we got to get somebody that actually gets the job done. We can't just dance in MAGA hats for 20 years and lose every election and run around. Like, we got to get somebody good, but people don't want to get somebody good. So as much as I want Trump to win, if he's the nominee in 2024, I don't see it happening. And in general, the more he talks, the less inspired I am to write his name down, where I'm starting to understand that perception of like, it all needs to get bad before it gets better. And Republicans need to fall flat on their face to fix it. And it's better to happen in the next couple of years than in 10 years, because we're playing against a lot of different clocks. But in general, like if Trump kicks the can down the road for the next 10 years and doesn't do shit, then when it comes to 2030, 2031, 2032, like you just screwed up for 10 years. Like you blew it, and the country's not going to be the same. You're not going to have some things you could have got done now. You're not going to be able to even do them in 2030. And when it comes to certain patterns, you might never win an election again just based on mathematics. So it's like part of me thinks that it does need to get way, way worse in order to get better. So I don't know. It's like, can Trump talk and inspire me to check his name on a piece of paper? Then I'll check his name on a piece of paper. If he keeps clowning around and acting like a doofus and trying to impress his Democrat friends with pro-choice and freaking vaccine rhetoric, I'm not voting for the guy. And I really don't give a shit what happens, because I don't think this movement, they need to learn a lesson like sooner than later. You know what I'm saying? Like, we can't screw up for 8 years and then learn a lesson after 6 more years of Biden. Like, you got to figure it out now. And if you don't figure it out now, maybe you need to mess up really, really bad in order to figure it out by 2028. Because if we wait till 2032 or 2036 or 2040 for this stuff, it's going to be way too late, you know? And in general, if it does get way worse, naturally people are going to snap out of it and gravitate and want something better and different. And it's going to happen naturally because, you know, it's not going to work. So, you know, I'm kind of torn. I never thought this way, but I'm kind of torn in the direction of like, I want us to win, but if we lose, it's for a reason. And people got to snap out. Like, you can't just like run circles around one guy for 40 years. Like, at a certain point, you gave him a shot. He locked the country down. He put Fauci on a stage. He didn't have to do that. He hired pharmaceutical lobbyists to run HHS and FDA. He didn't have to do that. He ran around doing socialist vaccine scams. He didn't have to do that. He's proud of them. He didn't have to do that. He says he thinks his supporters would have got the vaccine if he got in office and we wouldn't have even needed mandates. That's ridiculous. He thinks his vaccine saved 100 million lives because Democrats told him. That's insane. He hired literally the entire swamp for almost every cabinet position. That's nuts. He gave Fauci and General Million award on his last day of office. That's insane, you know? And like, that's the guy people are going to be stuck on for the next 6 years. Like him, vote for him, whatever. But like this movement needs to like wake up. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you don't have the ability to challenge Trump and hold him to the same standards as you hold Kevin McCarthy and everyone else to, then this movement is going to fail, and it needs to fail sooner than later. So we could get a real movement of actual like substance sooner than like 2040, you know? Because like at this point, if Trump wins the election, then he's got 4 more years to get something done. And that's a great thing. No more excuses. Here, Donald Trump, here's the government. You got 4 years, bro. Stop picking bad cabinet members. You know what I'm saying? Stop, like, do something. Get it done. That would be great. I would love that. If Trump doesn't win, the Republican movement is in shambles for a long time. If he runs and falls short, we're done, in my opinion. Because if he loses, he's never going to admit to anything. He's just going to like aimlessly run in circles saying the election was taken, but he's not going to be able to pinpoint it. He's not going to be able to do anything about it. He's going to get mad at people in states that actually did do something about it. Like, the people that Mike Lindell got pissed at were like people that actually fixed their state. Like, DeSantis fixed the state, cleared out the voter rolls, won a big election, but now he's the bad guy because he doesn't just lick Trump's shoes. It's like the movement is done if he doesn't win. If Trump runs, I hope he wins, because if he loses, if he wins a nominee and loses, it's going to be like, we're going to be caught in this loop for a long time. You know, it's the same way the left is caught in like I hate conservatives loop and I don't know my pronouns or whatever. Like the Republicans are going to be caught in this like Trumpy loop. And it's just like, it's not going anywhere. Like, it's like, so I really hope people figure it out, but someone said his pardons. Yeah, his pardon list is insane. People should take a deep dive on who he pardoned and go through all of those. Like, if you really want to know somebody's character, look at his pardon list and him giving an award. He gave a literal award to Anthony Fauci, Deborah Birx, General Milley, Jared Kushner, and the pharmaceutical lobbyists that he hired to run HHS. That should disqualify him, not on paper, just like in the perception of the base. That should be like the most embarrassing. Everyone's like, oh, he's going to release the files and he's going to crush the deep state and release all their data on, the JFK. And it's like, no, Trump just pardoned a bunch of people that are, and then gave awards to all the people you hate. And Republicans are like, I want that again. And if you don't want that again, you're bad. It's like, dude, this movement is fried, in my opinion. It's like with the McCarthy stuff, someone said he deserved his fate. I'm in an interesting place. I really don't care. If McCarthy would have stayed, I wouldn't have freaked out. I wouldn't have cared. It's like, I don't care. If McCarthy gets kicked out, I'm not going to cry. Go work at Taco Bell or something. McCarthy can, he can make me a burrito or something. It's like, I don't care. I'm not going to get like overly dramatic about Congress drama because it's been 30 to 40 years and they don't do shit. Republicans had the House, the Senate, and the presidency, and they didn't really do anything. You know what I'm saying? Then they had power for 2 more years in 2 different categories, and they locked the country down and sold vaccines. The Republican Party is like past the point of no return. So it's like, I don't really give a shit. It's like, sure, McCarthy could stay. He can go. We could blame this person. We could blame that person. As long as like eventually we could get to this point of like, okay, Trump won for 4 years and nothing really changed. Biden's in office and it's not good. But we got to stop pretending like Trump is a savior who's going to save. He's not going to save us. We have to look at the issues and be like, listen, this is all what it is. Like, if we think that someone's going to miraculously fix this when they're proving that they don't care, it's just going to be like a long 10 years to Agenda 2030 or whatever they're not planning, even though they wrote it on a website. It's a conspiracy theory. They just wrote it on a website. And miraculously, when it turns 2020, all of a sudden the whole world locks down and even Donald Trump's cool with it and sells vaccines. Yeah, it's totally not theater though, guys. He's totally on your side. He just miraculously was there for 2020. And now it's like, whatever, I'm past the point of wanting to really argue with it. This was my stream to basically vent or explain how I feel. I'll try not to be very repetitive with it. I think the solution to not being repetitive to it is I'm going to have to like unfollow and mute pretty much every Republican I follow because they all say the same stupid crap all the time. So that's the way for me not to get caught in this loop as well, is to just purge my following and my perception of people that don't actually believe what they say, but I do still want to find clips and talk about interesting stuff and really analyze the world. I enjoy doing that, but I'm going to not, this is like my full-throated, this is how I feel. This is what I think about stuff. I'm being very transparent about it. With that being said, I'm absolutely going to try to focus on other stuff. And I think the only way to do that is I have to just, and I don't want to do this, but I have to like completely ignore almost everyone, because every day I log in, most of my feed is just people being like ridiculous hypocrites. Like they're like Thomas Massie, like you got like Cat Turd on Twitter freaking out at Thomas Massie because he backs Kevin McCarthy. But Byron Donalds also backed McCarthy today, and I bet he's not going to get yelled at. Donald Trump also backed McCarthy. He's not going to get yelled at. So it's like, why do I want to be surrounded by a bunch of people who have like, they just freak out at like people that don't like worship Trump, but they worship Trump, but nothing they say they actually believe, because if Trump does it, they'll make up an excuse. It's like, well, if you make up an excuse for Trump, can I make up an excuse for Thomas Massie? Because Thomas Massie to me is more righteous than Trump. And to be honest, I don't even like the McCarthy thing. I get both sides of it. I get why Marjorie Taylor Greene backed him. I get what Thomas Massie's saying. I agree with what Matt Gaetz is saying. He's totally right. That's why I'm not even being offensive to her. I just genuinely don't give a shit. It's like, if Kevin McCarthy stays, cool, have fun. Hopefully you can change a little bit of something. If he leaves, go work for McDonald's, bro. Learn to code or something, or you could be my assistant. I don't care where he goes. He'll probably get a job at Newsmax, or, run for office, or maybe he's staying there because he's still U.S. representative, and I'm just trolling. But in general, it's like, it's like him being there, does it get worse? Maybe. Does it get better? Maybe. But at a certain point, people are going to have to like snap out of this whole world that we're living in and be like, okay, whether you're Democrat or Republican, the cities and a lot of this also is like, people have to get out of the tribalism of just like obsessively hating over Trump or loving Trump to the point where like they can't think about issues that's happening to both sides, where it's like, no matter if Trump or Biden's in office, we're getting taxed on our income an insane amount, and it doesn't matter. And that's how the swamp keeps getting filled, because they're using your money to fill it. And Trump didn't change that. He has no plans of changing that. He only has plans of pretending to change that. He just did a thing where he admitted that he didn't make Mexico pay for the wall. And I know he never was going to do it, but he says things that he doesn't mean to win elections, like every politician. But in general, it's like also a thing is like the food that we're eating, the pesticides, like certain things could be easily changed if everyone just snapped out of it. The meat we're eating, the laws around that. Thomas Massie talks about that. Everything could be fixed so quickly if people just snapped out of it and were like, okay, like it doesn't matter left or right. Like this doesn't change. Congress doesn't change. The omnibus bills are insane. I like what Matt Gaetz said about the single spending bill instead of the omnibus bill. It's a ridiculous system, and it does need to stop, even if it's like interrupted briefly or gets worse, like whatever, get that out there. And if we could all get on that and do like a single spending bill, like Gaetz is saying, that would clear up a lot of stuff. A lot of people could like figure out certain issues and be like, oh, that makes sense. But it's going to require not just Democrats from being like insanely tribal and psychotic. It's going to take Republicans doing that too. And everybody wants to dish it out, but they don't want to take it. Where like Republicans will be like, oh, Democrats, all they care about is Democrats, and they don't even think, and they're full of double standards. Yeah, it's true. But look at Republicans, especially like Trump worshipers now. It's the same thing. They're tribal. They don't think. They have double standards. They care about person over policy. They've turned into exactly what they hated in the left. And that's the most like, symbolic thing I've ever seen. All of these like Trump butt sniffing influencers, 9 out of 10 of them, who are like talking about double standards for 5 years, which I agree with. So is I. Now they have the same double standards that the left do for their guy. And they've proved they're the same exact type of hypocrite. They don't care about policy. They never cared about certain things they talked about. They care about worshiping a person and being emotional. So it's like the left and the right are really not that different when you get to the core of how they're acting. And in order to fix the country, we both have to snap out of it. But the problem is no one wants to be the adult in the room. Democrats are like, well, Republicans are fascists and corrupt, and I don't want to act like an adult because they're acting like babies. And then you go to like Republicans and they're like, well, Democrats are acting like babies, so why should I act that way when they're acting that way? And it's like, at a certain point, someone has to be the adult in the room and be like, listen, Gaetz, I do believe after seeing that speech, I was giving him some stuff before, but he does seem like someone who understands that. Obviously there's some benefit in what he's doing as well, but it seems like he understands. He's like, listen, if we do it this way, we're not always going to agree, but there's going to be like, we have to stop playing this game we're playing. Like it's been going on for too long. I really agree with what he said. It's like, yeah, we could get a little win and you could get a little win, but like this game's all messed up. And like, even if it gets worse, you just got to we got to stop for a second, whether McCarthy stays or goes, and like, really think about this and come together on certain things. So I'm doing my best to do that. I know I might be off-putting to some, and it might not be the way people want me to relay the message, but in general, I'm trying to kind of get out of my echo chamber. Like I'm out of the Trump echo chamber, and now it seems insane to me. I'm out of a lot of the Republican echo chambers, and even though I agree on the policy, I'm not even sure that people in the movement agree with the policy, because they seem to not even care about the policy if a certain person says it. What does it mean to care about something if one person could say it and you say yes, and one person could say it and you say no? Then it's not about that thing. It's about the person. And that's what I'm realizing most people are. I like people because of that, like Thomas Massie. I don't like him because of who he is. Like, yeah, he's cool. He's nice. He's like chill. He's like a nerdy, funny guy. But the reason I like who he is because he's authentic. I like Trump when he was authentic. I like Chip Roy because he's authentic. I don't like these people because I like actors. I like Matt Gaetz because I believe what he's saying. It's not like, oh, if he starts being like Dianne Feinstein, I'm going to support him because I like him over the like, no, I like them because of what they're doing. people like me because of my news analysis. If I sucked at my job, I'd have 1/1000th of this followers. Like, people aren't following me. Oh, he has long hair. Sure, you might notice it. Some girls might say, oh, he's cute, or he's not, whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's a small portion of it. But like, the big portion of it is like, oh, he's actually really, really good at what he does. When he makes a 10-minute video, that's like the best one I've seen on that topic or whatever. Like, it's that. It's not like if I just start being like a communist or something, it's like, you shouldn't like me just because I'm a like, oh, I used to like Anomaly, but now he's a communist and he's cool. Like, no, you should not like me if I turned into a like, if that's what you're against. So this is what a lot of people in politics are not doing. And it's our own fault. McCarthy or not, both people are right. Gaetz is right. It needs to stop. Massie's right. It's not really going to change, and it could get worse. Like, they both make a valid point, but I guess I'm just trying to play my part and snap out of my echo chamber. And really, my goal, if anybody cared, would be to wake people up and get stuff done. I don't think we could just get stuff done if the left is acting like hysterical for the next 10 years and the right's acting hysterical for the next 10 years. And I think that they both kind of like play into each other. You know what I'm saying? Like, how crazy the left acts makes the right go a little crazy, and how crazy the right acts makes the left go a little crazy. And as long as they could just keep pointing to the craziest people on their side, then they just like keep it going. And that's why I think people like RFK are interesting, because I don't know where he's going or what his intentions are, but he's making people listen to somebody that's on the left because he's actually making sense. Or Jimmy Dore. I disagree with Jimmy Dore's policy, but I think in 5 years, Jimmy Dore will figure it out. And he makes really valid points. And to be honest, he's right about like 90-something% of what he says. Like, everything he says about the left and the right, he's not wrong. You know what I'm saying? Some of his policies, I think, are naive and short-sighted, but it's not like my party's doing anything about it. So like, we don't have a real solution to those answers. So people just speculate. But long story short, these are the things that are transcending politics. Like, this is what's going to snap people out of it. This is what's going to make people realize, okay, not all left-wingers are really crazy and not all right-wingers are really crazy. It's going to take people being good at what they do and being honest. It's not going to take Trump worshipers or even DeSantis worshipers, like someone that literally is just ride or die no matter what they say. Like, that's not helping necessarily. I think it's extra bad on the Trump side and it's bad on the Democrat side, but like, it's not going to work. Like, we got to snap out of it. And if we want them to do something, we have to do it. What does it mean to watch 95% of Republican influencers say the left is hypocrites and the left has double standards, just to have the same double standards and hypocrisy when Trump does something? They're not hypocrites when Trump's right, but when Trump does something that's liberal or socialist or sneaky or pharma scammy, they just have an excuse for it. You know what I'm saying? They're the same type of hypocrites that the left are. So how in the world can you change the country if you can't even change yourself? You know what I'm saying? How is the left going to stop doing something that you can't even do? And if you're left wing, how's the right going to stop doing something that you can't even do? And it's people's energies that are actually causing each other to go nuts. And it's not necessarily like an excuse, but it's like someone has to break the echo chamber. I'm going to do my best to do it. I'm going to piss off the left, as I probably have. I'm sure I'm already pissing off a lot of Trump supporters, etc. And apparently I've pissed off foreign press that, says they're not foreign press, but they literally publish it in foreign press. It is what it is. I'm sorry. That's just the angle I'm taking. The goal is a better country, preserving liberty that makes people happy and able to pursue, a solid life, and safety in this country that is declining rapidly due to multiple reasons. But like, it's all good intentions that I have. And I've come to the conclusion that worshiping or hating a politician is not going to fix it. We have to transcend the culture and not just like warp ourselves into the true social mind of Trump, or sit on the other side and listen to like harlots, or not harlots, harpies. I wanted to say, no, harlots is funny though, but harpies are like, that's why I think of Rachel Maddow and some of the women on The View. But like, we got to snap out of that and get to it. John said, "You're such a little bitch." Yeah, that's what you're inspired to say after my 5-minute little rant there. That's what it made you think. What part were you mad at? The part where I said we have to stop worshiping Donald Trump? Do you want to worship him or something? I don't get it, dude. Like, what can you say what you're even mad at? It's like this is my world now. Every time I go live, people are just screaming in all caps. Like they're so mad at the thought of snapping out of a political echo chamber and trying to not just like be one dimensional and completely unlikable to the point where no one wants to vote for you, but whatever. God bless you guys. God bless your family. God bless America. God bless the world. I'll be doing more stuff, obviously. And he was talking about another commenter. Yeah, you guys like fight with each other in the comment sections. Fascinating. All right. Appreciate you guys. Have a beautiful one. And I'm going to do my best. I'm really going to try to, I know everybody always says this, but think about things more thoroughly and what I'm doing, especially because this was something I'm inspired to say based on what's going on. With that being said, I want to come to terms with what's going on and not just complain about it all the time. I mean, I don't think I'm just doing that, but it's like I'm pretty like if I really wanted to change something, like people are like, oh, you're this, you're that. I could run for office. I could win a certain seat. I could do a lot more with the power that I've wielded. But in general, I'm listening to the crowd. If a majority of people in the Republican Party want something that I don't want, I'm not trying to take it from you. I'm saying, okay, popularity wins. It is a vote. That's what we're doing. So if that's what it is, you could have it. You know what I'm saying? I'll do something else. I'll get the memo. It's like when Democrats win a liberal city and they destroy the city. Well, I used to like this city, but not anymore. I guess I'll leave. So I'm totally okay with that. I'm totally okay with people unfollowing me. I'm totally okay with people not watching my show. I would like people to, but I'm okay with the parting of the ways, and we can meet again in a couple of years when things turn out the way they do. So I'm okay with that, but I'm trying to figure out what inspires me and do something fun and enjoyable. Because right now, this is what inspires me. But this is what inspires me because I'm listening to these people all day. So if I just block that out and stop listening to Republicans, then it's not going to be what inspires me. Something else will inspire me and catch my eye. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. So I'll figure it out. I enjoyed today. I don't know if everybody did. Someone said I'm sticking to you. I mean, I think a lot of what I'm saying is extremely valid. That's obviously why I'm saying it. But it's just like certain things are very clear. Like I'm just going to say it one more time because I want to like drive this point home. If I say I'm against 40% income tax and that's my thing, right? It's too much. And then Trump came along and did 40% income tax, and Obama came along and did 40% income tax. And I only talked about it when Obama did it, but when Trump did it, I said that's okay. It would be like if I was like it's okay when Joe Biden prints trillions of dollars because I'm a Democrat, but when Trump prints the money, it's bad. Then you should know as a person with a brain that person doesn't actually care about income tax or they don't care about money printing. They're lying to you. It's about the person. If a Democrat says Trump printed trillions of dollars and destroyed the economy, but when Biden printed trillions of dollars, he saved the economy, that person's full of shit. And if you meet a Trump supporter or a Styx Hexenhammer, satanic guy, and he says, well, when Trump printed that much money, it didn't do anything. But when Biden printed money, it really destroyed the economy. He's full of shit. So like, this is where I'm getting to people. I'm not asking people to agree with all of my opinions that I can't prove, but some of this thing is clear in front of your eyes, as clear as day. There's certain people in each movement, Democrat and Republican, that literally don't believe anything they say. If you say endorsing McCarthy makes you a rhino, but you don't call Trump a rhino when he endorses McCarthy, you never believed what you just said. You just said it for other people. You get what I'm saying? And that's what's called a hypocrite with double standards. So I'm not asking people to agree with all my crazy opinions or whatever, but this stuff is pretty clear. Just consider it, because once you realize that some people do that, I just tune them out. I'm like, okay, this person doesn't mean anything. Like, I'm a libertarian. I'm against income tax. And then a libertarian wins and he does income tax. And you're like, oh, now I love income tax because my guy did it. You never cared about income tax if you like when your guy does income tax. If you're against income tax and that's your libertarian thing and your guy does it, you can't possibly agree with it. You have to be like, hey, I like this guy, but that's wrong. And I'm going to call it out the same way I was at the left. If you're a libertarian who makes excuses for your guy doing income tax, you're an idiot. You're a liar. You're a phony. You're a team player. You're a sports ball brainwashed, sports fan, politic guy. You're a bootlicker. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's just the truth. Like, that's why I used to make videos about the left wing. And I used to say, Trump did prison reform. I said, hey, I know this because I was in those circles for a while, just people that weren't right wing, but I also knew conservatives too. But anyway, it was like you guys wanted prison reform for years. And now Donald Trump did prison reform. Aren't you going to give Donald Trump credit for what you guys wanted, Democrats? And barely anyone gave him credit except for like Van Jones. And it's like, no, I guess they don't give a shit. Like, I guess the left are a bunch of hypocrites. They never actually cared about prison reform. They only just hate Donald Trump or something. Like that used to annoy the crap out of me because I was like, he's kind of liberal. Donald Trump's doing liberal dreams. It's a dream to do prison reform for liberals, and Trump did it. I wrote my high school thesis on that. I didn't even know I was that liberal, but like somehow I was inspired through rap music or something I watched on YouTube to write my thesis on prison reform. Now I have a different perception on it as time has changed out. It's nice to let someone who smoked weed get out of jail. I still agree with that. But, if you committed like 5 felonies that are like insane and like, you're doing violent crimes, you keep getting out of jail. It's like, all right, bro, like maybe you're not fit for society and you're ruining people's lives. But long story short, I knew liberals wanted prison reform. And I just like couldn't get over the fact I was like one of the not phony people where I'm like, how are you guys not giving this guy credit? He did what you want. He did what I used to want. No one wants to give him credit. And now it's like the right has turned into the same thing. Not that you should give Biden credit because he's not really doing anything. But in general, with like Trump, it's like, well, this is where we draw the line for everybody in the world, except for our guy. That line doesn't exist. And Anomaly's a bad guy for noticing we're doing that. It's like, how does everyone not notice this? It's so obvious. And I'll tell you what, as much as I might rant and rave eventually, like EDM rave, no, but in general, I know people are coming around to it. I know a lot of people agree with me. I know in my live streams, it's 50-1 people that agree with me to disagree. And if it wasn't, it is what it is. But I'm just saying, like, I'm watching the numbers grow. I'm watching the number of basic fake influencers. Now they're getting ratioed on Twitter all the time. Now people are waking up to it. Now there's a lot of dissent and people that are awake to the reality. So it's like, I've watched the numbers change in the last 5 months. It used to be like a few people. It's growing. And I talked to somebody the other day who's going to vote for RFK, over anyone. They're not really political. I would say they're neither party, but they like RFK. And they told me that they watched the Bill Maher DeSantis thing. And he was telling me, because he watches more conservative stuff, even though he likes RFK, like he watches Tim Pool and other stuff. And he goes, bro, I'd never seen a full clip of DeSantis because everybody I watch, like Tim Pool, they just post like embarrassing things and make fun of his his face and his boots and stuff and say he looks weird. And he was like, I've never seen a full clip of DeSantis like actually answering questions. And he goes, bro, his answer to Bill Maher was like really good. He's like, I never knew that world existed because every Republican influencer I watch, they only show like the little stupid weird clips and they act like that's all he's doing. But if you listen to like DeSantis, he's calling out Trump for giving Fauci an award. He's saying that he'd clean up the CDC, the NIH. He talks about Joseph Ladapo. Follow Joseph Ladapo if you don't on social media. That's the Surgeon General of Florida. He's the best Surgeon General in the country. He's gotten rid of multiple Soros, I would say, funded or I know they say that's anti-Semitic, so I got to reword it. DAs that got hired because money that Soros possibly allegedly had, that he put into politics and that he endorsed or something. I don't know what you're going to say. They're going to say you hate like a whole country and a whole group of people, even though you don't, if you ever talk about Soros, but whatever. Long story short, he just told me, he was like, bro, he's like, I've watched conservatives for a year. And he's like, I've never actually heard DeSantis speak because they only play clips of him that are like terrible and short. And he's like, he's not really like that. And it's like, I'm not asking people to trust DeSantis. I'm just saying, like, listen to him for 3 minutes on Bill Maher. That's better than anything Trump's done in a year or 2 years. Like, will Tim Pool play that clip? No, he'll probably like chop a little bit of it and be like, oh, look, Bill Maher owned him. It's like, Bill Maher didn't own him. DeSantis got Bill Maher's audience to cheer for him over Bill Maher's narrative twice on election. Like, that's big, but whatever. Long story short, you guys get it. Actually, long story long, it's been 2 hours and 42 minutes. I am not going to go this long again for a while. I don't think this was a good time, but I'm over it. Someone said Trump is afraid to debate DeSantis. He absolutely is. Trump is running his campaign like Hillary Clinton. He's ahead in the polls. no debates. I don't want to do this. Just like me. Trump would get obliterated by DeSantis in a debate. Obliterated. And if you don't think so, do it. You think Trump could out-debate DeSantis? DeSantis is telling the truth about everything. And Trump is saying his vaccine saved 100 million lives. DeSantis would make Trump look so dumb and so fake. He knows that debating DeSantis would mean he would like just get destroyed in the polls. So the smart thing is for him to hide in his little bunker, go hang out at pizza parlors and ice cream shops or whatever, and just, like hang out with people who like him and get Charlie Kirk to be like, this is retail politics. This is the new Trump. He's not doing big rallies anymore. It's because he can't get as many people as he used to, but he still gets a lot of people. We're doing ice cream shops, and this is real politics. This is ice cream. It's like, bro, you're as fake as a Democrat being like, here's Joe Biden and his aviators. Oh, Joe Biden's so cool and his aviators eating ice cream. Dude, that's what Charlie Kirk is doing with Trump. It's like embarrassing, dude. I know Charlie Kirk's a smart guy and he makes a lot of good points, but in general, Charlie Kirk's literally like, retail politics is Trump eating ice cream and pizza. It's like, bro, you're like a propagandist now. Yeah. Oh, do I sit here and say DeSantis is a man who wears boots? Look at DeSantis and his boots, guys. His boots, man. It's boot year for DeSantis. He's wearing his cowboy boots. He's cowboy DeSantis. No, it's like that's like propaganda, stupid crap. There are DeSantis people who do that, and to me, they look just as stupid as the Trump people. It's like their whole life revolves around him, where they're just talking about his outfit. Yeah, sure, I get your outfit's part of the equation, but it's the same shit as like, well, yeah, Joe Biden sucks, but I mean, look at him eating ice cream and aviators. Isn't Joe Biden a special boy? And he's like, blah, blah. He's like, oh man, this ice cream tastes so good. I'm Joe Biden. And it's like, people are, oh, he's so presidential. Like, what? Joe Biden eats ice cream and aviators? Someone said bad day for Massie. Thomas Massie's going to be there. He's been there. He'll be there again. People have said it's a bad day for him thousands of times. He's been the only one who's voted no or yes on certain bills dozens of times. Thomas Massie will be fine. They tried to kick him out of the party multiple times already. He's the best congressman. He passes bills for the cattle industry and tries to get the power back into the hands of the farmers. Just because, Massie disagrees with MAGA today, it doesn't mean anything. Byron Donalds voted for McCarthy also. Are people mad at Byron Donalds? They shouldn't be. I mean, listen to why they voted that way. Listen to their opinion. If it makes sense, say it makes sense. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But I trust Thomas Massie more than I trust anyone else in Congress. But whatever. He doesn't eat ice cream and hand out pizza slices, though. So whatever. Someone said, don't complain, run for office. Teresa, you've been complaining to me the whole time. You've been like, you're young, you're naive, you're delusional or whatever. I've seen your comments, Teresa. I know you think you're being sneaky, but I see them. It's okay. I'm not mad at you. You're commenting to me for 2 hours. Why don't you run for office, Teresa? Why don't you start a YouTube channel? I could say the same thing to you. Why are you commenting? Why are you commenting to me, Teresa? Start your own YouTube channel. You should do what I'm doing. You shouldn't have an opinion. Go do it yourself. You don't want to. I do media. I think that media in many ways is more important than running for office. I'm not saying I'm a special boy. I'm a special boy. I'm more important. I'm just saying I do what I want. I believe that shifting culture and information, there's an information battle, and the information battle decides the culture, and the culture decides the country. And it doesn't even matter if Donald Trump wins the election, you still get locked down. So I believe that the media controls the minds of the masses, and doing cultural information attempt to be more honest and be more righteous and be more true and be more real is more important than running for office, because it doesn't even matter when you win elections, you still lose culturally and your country continues going left. And that happened even when Trump was in office. Trump won and you still got locked down. So you could run for office. You could start a YouTube channel. I could run for office, but I don't want to run for office. And me not running for office doesn't mean I'm not doing anything. I believe this is more important than running for office. I would love running for office. I could just raise a bunch of money. Do you guys realize that I work my ass off? There's people just showing their titties on OnlyFans, making 3 times as much money as me, 10 times as much money as me. And that's okay. I'm only a little salty, but you get people run for office, they do nothing, and they lose by 30 points and they make millions of dollars and make a whole career around it. If I ever ran for office, if I said, hey, Patriots, I'm going to fix California, do you realize that I would probably raise more money in a month than I've made in the last year, like I would make a fortune. I would raise so much money. I would get to travel more. I would get to hire more people. I would get to delegate more, and I would get all of you guys to pay for it. So it would strategically probably be way better for me to run for office if that's what I wanted to do, because there's a lot of pros to it and also a lot of cons. I don't want to run for office, but also I don't think that it's the most important thing. Someone said I live in California. Enough said. My area of California is paradise, bro. I've been to Texas. I've been to Austin. Austin, you know, on the street outside of Rogan's thing. I loved Rogan's Comedy Store. It was awesome. But outside the street, it looks like hell. It's like literally you got like zombies walking around looking like they're going to stab you. People getting shot all the time. Like Texas is not paradise. You know, there's a lot of cool spots of Texas. There's a lot of cool spots of Florida. There's a lot of spots of Florida and Texas you couldn't pay me to live in. So just like every state, there's a lot of shitty areas. There's a lot of high crime. Some of the most high crime areas in the country are in Republican states. That's true. They're in Democrat cities, but Republican states. So, you know, I think it's more about local. I'd much rather live in a conservative, clean area of California or Massachusetts than I would one of the worst areas of Arkansas or Mississippi or Florida or Texas. So I hear what you're saying, but, you know, depending what you want in this world, yeah, the state is run very poorly, but locally there's a lot of W's going on. So definitely too expensive, but I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of expensive places even in Florida now. The prices are going up because it's sought out. People are seeking it, you know? And honestly, there's a lot of places in Florida that I'm like, this is a little, you know, Florida has a vibe where like everything's kind of on top of each other. And there's so many people now where you'll be in like a really nice area and you go like 3 blocks the other way and it's like really not nice. It's like everything's on top of each other. So I like Florida. I like the parts of Texas I've been to. I like the country of Texas more than the cities personally. If I ever moved to Texas, I would not move to Austin. I would definitely move to a conservative area of Texas, either, you know, a conservative city or a conservative rural town. But you could dunk on me for living in California. I'm just saying, I'm not trying to shit on other states, but I've been to a liberal place in Colorado. That was one of the coolest, nicest places I've ever been. And it was like, it's definitely gayer than most conservative places. They had rainbow flags everywhere, but it was clean. It was safe. It was nice. And I was like, dang, this is like the nicest liberal city I've ever been to, is Breckenridge, Colorado. I couldn't believe it. I was like, what? But it's because it's so remote and they just don't have crime. And, you know, it's cold in the winter and they don't have homeless. Breckenridge was the shit. Breckenridge, I was like, I could live here. I don't know that I can afford to buy a place here. It's probably crazy expensive, but, you know, that kind of blew my mind. I was like, there's rainbow flags everywhere, but there's no crime. It's clean. You know, the streets are amazing. The stores are nice. People weren't wearing masks. I still would vote Republican, but I'm just saying, I've seen it. Someone said here in Florida, the prices are way too high, born and raised. Yeah, I mean, you get what you pay for sometimes. And definitely, like, if you want cheap places, you got to go where nobody is. That's just the reality of it. Any place that people are like flocking to, they're just jacking the prices up because they can. The prices are low in places that people aren't buying, or there's a lot of options. So listen, I like Florida. I like Texas. I like America, but I don't know. I guess I was just defending myself against the California slander. California, geographically and temperature wise, is like one of the greatest places in the country. California is a huge state. It's got mountains. I could have 75-degree weather and be looking at a snowy mountain like I'm in Switzerland or something. Like, it's epic. The ocean is epic, besides the stingrays that keep getting me. You know, rest in peace, Steve Irwin. You know, we lost a brother. But anyway, you know, it's a great, I like, no offense to Florida, I like California more than Florida. I think geographically it's better. And I think there's less, like, it's less swampy. It's less humid. There's less like weird bugs and stuff. There's not GMO mosquitoes, but Florida has better government. The government of California sucks. Not to bring it back to this, but this is why it's so annoying when Donald Trump says, oh, the only reason Florida is good is the weather. I mean, the weather's sunny. It's easy to do that. Bro, that's not true. California has millions of people leaving because of the policies. Geographically and temperature-wise, California is one of the best places in the country. The mountains are amazing. The ocean is amazing. The weather is amazing. There's a lot of great places, but the government is screwing it up. You know, it's like they're blowing one of the greatest places. But it depends what you like. If you like mountains, you can go to Colorado or something. If you like peace and quiet, you go where nobody is. If you like the ocean, you go east or west coast. You know what I'm saying? If you like whatever, like if you like a lot of guns and barbecue, you go to Texas. It's like everybody just has to do what they like. So I'm trying to figure out what I want too, because I do like the ocean. I do like, my dream is always to live near the ocean. Once I moved to LA, I was like, this is rough. I want to go to Santa Monica, or I want to go to like somewhere where it's nice. And then now Santa Monica, I wouldn't even want to be. It's not even that nice anymore. But long story short, I was like, I want to be near the ocean and I want to have a car. I never had a car. And I did that. But now I'm like, all right. Someone said I'll just stick to Alabama. Yeah, I mean, there's gems everywhere, and it depends what you want. Some people like seasons. Some people like snow. Some people hate snow. Some people like like they like familiarity. They like things that are familiar. Sorry, I was trying to like word it the other way, but yeah, I think there's definitely pros and cons to everywhere, and you just got to know what's for you, or what's best for you and your family, or what you enjoy the most. Because I'm at the point now, I like where I'm at, but I could definitely move. And I think my goal, and then I'm really going to leave, my goal for the next year is I just want to simplify my life. It got too complicated and it got less fun. I just want to simplify it because, you could work your ass off in a city and have all these resources, but there's somebody that's driving a riverboat somewhere and doing tours that's having a better time because his life is simple and more rewarding. So that's kind of where I'm at, where it's like, I like what I do. I appreciate it. I want to keep doing it. At the same time, I could go for something different. I could live in the middle of nowhere. I could do something off the grid. It's definitely more and more appealing the crazier it gets. Someone said Trump is winning in the court in New York. Of course he is. I mean, they're not going to win that one, I don't think. But in general, I think it's a circus to just waste people's time. So that's all the left and the right could talk about. It makes Trump elevate above every other candidate. It gives him a victim card. He avoids debates. He tries to cancel debates. To me, I see it as like a big circus, but I hope he doesn't get charged. Like the fact that he's trying to cancel Republican debates because he's getting charged. Guys, I'm being charged. Now we have to cancel the debates that helped me win. I won in 2016 because I was on the debate stage, but now I'm trying to cancel it for everyone else because the Democrats are persecuting me, my friends. I don't know. I think he's in on it, but I don't believe it. But maybe he's not. Maybe he's really being persecuted. I'm kind of thinking he's in on it though. But anyway, Anomaly likes to make a long story short. Think about how long the story could be instead of 3 hours. Who said that, Dylan? Bro, that was the best comment ever. I'm going to leave on that note. I say long story short all the time, and today was the longest story ever. Yeah. If it wasn't a long story short, imagine how long a story it was. Bro, that was brilliant. Well done, mate. Well done. All right. It's been Dream Rare Podcast. We're going to leave on that note because it was funny and true. I think I froze my account. Damn it. I tried to click a button, but probably shouldn't have done that.